graphic designers who previously couldn't make a living to reach a level of parity as artists with traditional fine artists. That, from my perspective, is one of the principal excitements about crypto art and the NFT as a technology. But of course, being here in Tokyo, which is such an extraordinary space for the meeting of art and technology, it seems to me to be a very natural space for NFTs and Web3 culture in general to germinate and to grow. And I'm personally very excited to be here and to see and meet all of the artists, many of whom are in this room today, which is extremely exciting. I was really happy to be talking to Shunsuke Takawo in particular, who's in the room, and a big admirer of your work, Shunsuke. But one of the things that came out of our conversation was the extent to which his work, but also a lot of generative art in Japan, is influenced by manga, anime, otaku cultures. And I wonder, Hiro, if you might be able to just sort of paint a picture for us about perhaps what a natively Japanese NFT space might look like.
So that's a really good question, because today I think we are seeing a lot of generative artists here. But Japan, I think Japan with NFT, it's like a tiger about to be, like a dragon about to be born. Like, because Japan has such a massive creative population. So there's amazing professional manga, anime, and then also media arts, fashion, but there's a lot of amateurs making work in manga. And in Japan, there's this big event called Komike. Like, people, you guys all know Komike. It's like twice a year in Japan. Sorry, I'm not like big Komike person. So that's where professionals sell their comics, but also amateurs sell their comics. Like, there's a lot of people who make things, create things. So I think once Japan was a bit slow because of the language barrier, but I think once that language barrier disappears, I think we're going to see all kinds of creatives putting their work in the NFT space. And I think there's going to be like media arts, but also a lot of manga, anime contents coming out. Like that's my prediction. Like looking at the Japanese population of just a culture of drawing and also selling, like in the marketplaces.
Thank you. And Seth, I know you've only been here a few days, but you obviously have been exploring the idea around doing a Tokyo Bright Moments for a while. I just wonder, as someone who's now seen different sort of micro communities of NFT artists, crypto artists, generative artists, is there anything that, from your perspective, Japanese artists have that is distinct and different from what we've seen over the past year around the world?
It's a really good question. It's such a daunting task to try to grok what NFT culture is here in Tokyo around generative art and produce something in 6 months. I think we've developed some patterns and routines for helping connect communities of artists and collectors and students. So a few weeks ago in Mexico City, we spent, I think it was 4 or 5 days, combining 3 things really, like education, workshops. We did a conditional drawing workshop with Casey Rees and Zach Lieberman, and let them talk about their history, and had Eric Snowfro Calderon and his brother Daniel Calderon on stage for the first time together, and had a panel about AI art with Ganbrud and Sofia Crespo. So there's opportunities to create content like that that's really interesting to us. And so I think there's an opportunity here, and met Takawo for the first time last night and just read your amazing write-up, and there's so much wisdom here, and new tools and new techniques, and if we can try to connect those dots and create some workshops and educational environments for Japanese artists to teach Japanese students generative art. I think that can be really powerful. And we did that in Mexico in Spanish. We had Juan RG and we had Mario and Alithia teach P5 and teach processing and teach shaders and teach randomness to Mexican students. And they weren't just art students. They were, like you're saying, they were designers, they were website makers, they were architects. And generative art is this really powerful new, more than just NFTs, because I think NFTs have been around for a long time. But this combination of NFTs and generative art is a really powerful supernova. It's just hard to describe because it unites the arts and it unites economies in a really interesting way that we haven't had before. The second thing we did is we connected artists and collectors around eating, and everybody ate together, and that was also really powerful to meet so many people that you probably knew really well on Twitter or Discord or Telegram for the last 3 years, and then you meet in person for the first time, and you already know this person because you've already followed them on Twitter. That's really powerful as well. So I think we can do that here and give people an excuse and a reason to come together like this. And third, and most importantly, is the art form, is the revealing of the art. And what we've done in every city and what I think we really want to elevate here in Tokyo at the highest level is give collectors and fans an opportunity to see generative art being birthed for the first time together. Right? It's different to go to a museum and see work that's been made long time ago. But when you're coming to the museum and the work is being shown to you for the first time and to the artist for the first time, because it's part of an algorithmic output, that's exciting. I mean, I'd love to hear your experience in London, seeing these nurseries being born with collectors, some of whom are here and some of whom flew in, and I'll never forget being with Nicholas. I mean, I get goosebumps.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's an experience, like, to be honest, like, until I saw it happening, because it's still new for me, like minting as an experience. I think it's an experience to be seen, like in Tokyo, like to really understand like how amazing that is to have that special moment. So yeah, and I think another thing about like having like how special it is to have like the event in Japan and getting the Japanese creative community involved is that Japan also has a really rich history of media arts, from dumb type, Namjoon Pike, and then comes to like Team Lab or Rhizomatics, Daito Manabe. So it would be really exciting to see that history and community intersect, and for at Bright Moments in May. So yeah.
One of the characteristics of Bright Moments is not only the minting of great works of generative art, but also this growing population of crypto citizens. And one of the sort of curious and I think false dichotomies in the NFT space, perhaps the Western NFT space so far, has been the separation between what are described as PFPs, profile pictures, which I suspect you're all familiar with, these vast sets of individual avatars. That class of collectibles is often regarded separately and usually implicitly looked down upon in comparison to other projects, generative art projects. But I have to say, one thing I find reassuring about Bright Moments is that you bring both together. And I think that one of the curiosities, certainly in Japan, which I think is really positive, but also specifically just to shout out to KUMALEON, which works with generative art and collectibles, is the idea that generative art and collectibles are, in some ways, they are part of the same conversation rather than two different separate communities, perhaps. I just wonder whether you could perhaps say a little bit about collectibles and the history of collectibles in Japan, because that is obviously something that is fundamental to that media culture that you speak about.
you mean the history of collectibles, like even before NFT, like collectibles in general? Like, I don't know whether, like, Japanese people have a big thing for collecting, like, for a long time. So I think, like, you know, there's this amazing, like, Gundam, the robot anime, or the Sailor Moons. I think the otaku culture and collecting culture is very familiar. So yeah, in that sense, the collectible culture comes really natural flow from, if I'm answering the question right. And I think KUMALEON, like, to be honest, I think Toshi probably can explain KUMALEON project better, but I think KUMALEON is kind of challenging, trying to do, like, experiment with the generative art and making something very kawaii, pop, accessible. And yeah, like making a community. So yeah, it's kind of different in that sense. Yeah.
Thank you, Seth. Do you have any views on this sort of curious separation that seems to have appeared between collectibles, generative art collectibles, and then generative art?
Yeah. So we there's kind of a fork maybe a year ago between like the apes and art blocks. On some level, reduce it all down, is PFP culture took a turn, and we had the benefit and the challenge at Bright Moments of meeting a lot of these communities in person. And sometimes the way they behave online is different than the way they behave in the real world. So we had a front row seat at some of the kind of machismo of PFP collections at NFT New York when Ethereum was at 4,000. And in retrospect, it's disgusting, but it was real. It was a moment in time, and that evolved differently, and that got into, I think, a lot of the DeFi utility that led to some of the recent market collapses. And that was very different, and that was all about utility and all about finance and all about, I have a Lamborghini, or I want to have a Lamborghini with my ape. And then there's this other world of FX hash and art blocks that really didn't have the same kind of social signaling. It was very sophisticated, but was really about the art. And wasn't about utility, and it wasn't about claiming things. And yet, now that I look back, I actually think they've influenced each other's in lots of interesting ways. I think that's why you have now hybrid models. I think we're a kind of an interesting hybrid where the crypto citizens become artful with, you know, Chan's our pixel artist here, and I think some of the artwork is starting to learn how to create interesting utility formations like proof grails, right? We did something in Mexico that was subtle, but I think really interesting, is for the first time, one of the traits for the crypto mexas was an eagle head. And it was a 1.1% probability that when you minted your crypto mexa, you would get one with an eagle head. And Jeff Davis, who's the creative officer of Art Blocks and has done a drop with us in every city, he made a piece called Transcendence. And the edition size of Transcendence was based on how many eagle heads were minted. And so if you minted an eagle head, you get a mint pass to mint a Transcendence. And so it was an example of where you can start to weave these PFP identity mechanisms almost as like a membership token or as a kind of a ticket, open up generative art opportunities.
Thank you. One of the things, one of the perhaps most interesting, I think, observations about the NFT was made by someone called Mitchell F. Chan, who's a wonderful artist and writer. And he said that the NFT separates the expressive form of a work of art from its commodity form. And coupled with the knowledge that I believe the last time I checked, the average time people hold or collectors keep their NFTs for is 30 days only. It creates a situation where the display of art has become less important perhaps than the transactability of that art. And one of the things that I find striking, and it's been particularly clear to me this year with Bright Moments, is that the live mint, that moment of sort of injected with excitement and you know, building towards this moment of the sort of appearance of this work, which is both exciting for the collector and extremely turbulent perhaps for the artist, who might not know what output they're going to actually come up with before it appears. I just wonder, Seth, if you could just say something a little bit about the culture of the live mint, because I do think it's changing how people experience art right now in a much more sort of time contingent way.
Definitely makes it more performative. And I think what we noticed, starting with the Crypto Venetians in Venice Beach, and it was very ad hoc, is we put them up on a screen and we told you to go to the back of the gallery and choose a walk-on song. Some people chose Rocky, some people chose Eminem, whatever it might be. And when you come out, you hear your music and you see your NFT, your Crypto Venetian, and you magically, or maybe not so magically, attach to it. Because the music that's playing is music that you've chosen. And you're surrounded by people who are right off the beach with a surfboard cheering you on. And why would you sell that collectible, or why would you sell that piece of art? Unless you really needed to, and that's okay. But you have an emotional connection with it. It's very different than if you went to OpenSea and just hit mint 3 times and kept 2 and sold 1, and it's much more transactional. And so I think what we've done along the way, and what we'd love for ideas while we're here doing research, is each city, each culture can express that and reflect that differently. And so in New York City, when we did the New Yorkers, you'd run out like the back of a game show and we'd clap you and there'd be a big screen and come meet your Crypto New Yorker. In Berlin, it was like being in Blade Runner. Huge 8 by 8 meter screen, biggest factory anybody's ever seen, totally monumental. London was precious and bespoke and very luxurious, and you'd sit in a room and you'd get tea or champagne, and then you'd open up a tiny little box with a magnifying glass, and you would see your Crypto Londoner, and then the piano would start playing generative music. Mexico was different. Mexico was more of a spiritual festival, and there were Aztec drummers moving around the space, and flowers everywhere, and amazing tacos on the roof, right? And so what should Tokyo be? What should that experience be to put, hopefully, many of you in the mindset of receiving something that's important to you, that's valuable economically because you care about it and you don't want to simply trade it, but that's more meaningful and emotional and memorable.
Now that Seth said this, like minting the whole experience, so like Nicholas Negroponte, the founder of MIT Media Lab, came to the London event. And it's true, the experience of minting together with Nicholas, it's something memorable, something you don't really want to give away. So, and that's really attached to that Crypto Londoner that we minted together. And it's true, I don't, it's actually Nicholas's, but you know, if it's mine, I don't want to sell it, or I don't want to give it away. So yeah, that's truly something special about the Bright Moments experience. Now also, but if I add as an artist, like, so doing the nursery collection and seeing the collection being minted live. So like, because I've been used to being an artist where I would make my video, I would edit it to perfection. I would make the machine. So I was used to doing everything the way I want, showing everything the way I want. So it was a new experience to not know what's gonna come out at that moment. But then, so it was actually my first generative collection piece. But when I thought that my algorithm, like when I thought I'm the artist behind the narrative of the algorithm, so when I created the collection, I was thinking about my pregnancy and how my baby was growing, and I wanted to create a collection that reflected that narrative of growth. So it was that shift in thinking was quite interesting for me, but I enjoyed that, like just to see it live, like mint live together with the collectors. So, yeah.
I think the collectors to be there with you. It's hard to describe how powerful it is as a collector to be with the artist and see them see the work for the first time through their eyes. I mean, it's once, it only happens once with each artwork. And so I think to give the community a chance to experience that systematically is what we're really about.
I think one of the things that comes across from this conversation, and a lot of conversations in Web3, is the social nature of the movement. I sometimes think that almost in order to be a successful artist in Web3, you need to collect work by your fellow artists, you need to support them, you need to engage in Discord or on Twitter. There is a sort of implicitly social mechanism by which artist markets are created. But I have to say, Sputniko, you said something rather more eloquent about Joseph Beuys, who's an artist you've spoken about in the past.
Yeah.
And you say, I love Joseph Beuys' notion of social sculpture, and I feel that if artists are social sculptors in 2022, then maybe startup culture is a new medium for sculpting our future society, which I think is a really important, profound statement. I just wonder whether you could maybe flesh that out a little bit, but also to explain how your work as an artist and your work as CEO of Cradle comes together, because it seems to me very clear that it does.
Yes. So Joseph Beuys, his idea of social sculpture has really influenced me a lot as an artist. And so basically, so Cradle, that's a company I founded, and I founded it 2 years ago, and now the company really grew. So I'm working with clients like Sony, NEC, Honda, Yahoo Japan to provide women's healthcare. And that was really an extension of my previous works like Menstruation Machine, where I was really interested in like tech and women's health, gender, women's reproductive rights. And but then I started to think that if artists are the people who are proposing new ideas or new ways of living or connecting, then in a way I started to feel that the startup culture was almost starting to look similar, because a lot of the CEOs and founders would have a vision about how people live, how people connect, how people create culture. I think that's what you're doing with Bright Moments in a way. So you have a vision, and then you try to get a team of people, you raise funds, and you build the company. And that whole process kind of felt like creating, because before I founded my company, I was making a lot of commissioned work. So I would get sponsors to commission. I would have a vision and an idea. I would get a commission. I would create a team. I would build the work. So I thought, doesn't that kind of overlap with the new tech startup culture? And a lot of startup CEOs, like Elon Musk, he has a bit of a positive and negative, like he's a bit controversial recently, but like these guys have pretty crazy ideas about the future and how people live, and Steve Jobs. And I thought like maybe, artists, the startup culture is an interesting new medium for artists to really work with. So that's why I founded my company. I raised funds. So my company it feels like a work of like my extension of my work. But I think in the Web3 community, like there's like, I think Bright Moments, also like, you know, and like Club NFT with a, like, you know, Art Norm is Jason's an artist. I think there's these new examples of artists, creators working with startup culture or tech to realize or propose a new vision. I don't know, what do you think about that?
Every time you say startup culture, I twitch because I was
maybe I should
I've
use
done
a different word.
25 years of
Yeah.
startups of a certain kind of. I started my first internet company in 1995, and then I joined a venture capitalist in 1999, and so I lived through Web 1 and Web 2. And there's a certain way of creating startups that hasn't led, at least in the United States, to the best consequences. It's created a lot of income disparity. It's killed San Francisco, which used to be so vibrant. And my hope with Web3, Bright Moments is a DAO. The only owners are people that own crypto citizens. As founders, we own crypto citizens. It's in the ownership is in the form of NFTs, and every NFT votes on proposals, the treasury, and votes on what city comes next. So Tokyo, I always wanted Tokyo. I always hoped it would be Tokyo, but Tokyo was decided on-chain by a certain percentage of the crypto citizen holders, over Singapore, over Seoul, over Hanoi, and over Bangkok. In the same way that London was chosen over Lisbon, Amsterdam, Paris, and Dublin. So what I like about this world that we're living in is it is like a canvas for startups, but it doesn't have some of the same challenges in terms of dealing with investors and different series of investors. It feels more inclusive. The way that we fund Bright Moments is we sell tokens to the next city. And so out of the 1,000 citizens that we mint in Tokyo, a third of them will be for sale, a third of them will be airdropped to existing holders, and a third of them we give away for free. And so I think there's an opportunity with NFTs and this kind of ownership tokenomics to, I think, create communities and artist collector combines that are more aligned than the typical startup.
That's true. In that sense, like the system, the scheme of raising funds is completely different. I think I use the word startup culture in a different, I should have used like more, I don't know, like the building culture,
Builders,
possibly.
yeah.
But it's true that I think Web2 startups, it's very investor-based, very, like CEO has a very central power in that sense. But I think, yeah, in the Web3 world, maybe it's like social sculpture in a more, like in a way, Web2 startup is like social sculpture, but with a bit of I'm a bit of a dictator of my company because I own most of the stocks. But I think in that sense, it's a very social, like a flat scheme of raising funds and building together. Yeah, you're right about the word startup culture, but yeah.
Yeah, actually, Sputniko, you said, I think Web 2 gave artists freedom to share, but it didn't really give artists freedom to sell something of value. And I think one of the things that I think we all, those of us committed to kind of, shall we say, preserving the native qualities of Web 3 and perhaps preventing Web 3 from becoming Web 2.1, by which I mean perhaps perpetuating old vertical hierarchical forms of exploitation, specifically of the artist. I just wonder, both of you, I'm interested to know your perspectives on, obviously Web3 has been going on a little while now. We see right now, I think, a real question about the long-term possibility of royalties as a way of compensating artists I think, we also, as you've, I think, indicated, we're starting to see a new identity of the artist as something perhaps more akin to a creative entrepreneur, someone who is actually a collector, someone who might be both an engineer and a trained fine artist. There is a sort of inherent hybridity to this new species that we're seeing. But I have to say, as ever, I am skeptical about how long we can see this sort of fertile grassroots art world continuing. And I'd be interested to know your perspectives on that, maybe starting with Sputniko.
Yeah, the royalty issue, I'm really puzzled about where the whole thing is going. So one thing I feel about, so it was part of all the utopia of having the royalties and secondary sales, and I'm actually curious what you think about the future of royalties. So it seems like there was a lot of utopia, but once it starts going, then a lot of the marketplaces start to revert to some of the utopias that were being discussed. And also, another thing is, the FTX craziness also lost a lot of trust in the crypto world. So I'm sort of, I feel like, if I'm very honest, I feel like I can see the utopia, and I can see how the infrastructure, Web3, how that allows artists to have value in their work, like to create something and trade something of value. I can see the tools are there. And I'm feeling that I just hope the tools are going to be properly used to build the future of the culture. But I don't know, how do you feel about all the mess that's happening with royalties?
It's a very noisy time. And it's very hot on Twitter, and I kind of don't want to get burned, so I'm kind of not saying anything, but I want to say something. And I mean, obviously, I think the power, none of us would be doing this, I don't think, unless it was something new. And what's new is that these things are moving in a decentralized way through public open wallets, and we can see everything if we want to, and who bought your token and what did they do with it? Did they hold on to it? Did they transfer it? Did they sell it? Did they transfer it to another wallet? Did it get bought later on for so much more? Did it go into that collector's wallet? I mean, all of this is new, and I think there's going to be a lot of tools and a lot of policies put in place for kind of trying to guarantee royalties, but I don't really know. I think what's really interesting is that for the first time, and I think this goes to one of the initial questions about the collector culture in Tokyo, in Japan, is for the first time, these tribal, like my son, I remember taking him when he was 8 or 9 to Pokemon conventions, and just that ferocious collector view, right, that's only gotten accelerated over time, and now has a kind of a virtual built-in stock market that follows it like a gas, in the form of these NFTs, in the form of these wallets. And it allows for artists to be connected to collectors in entirely new ways that I think is deeply disruptive of the traditional gallery, traditional art world. I think it'll take a couple years before we see that play out. I think what's exciting to me in terms of being here is, I think on the one hand, Japan has had an amazing history of installation art, of digital art, of immersive experiences that are second to none. And at the same time, there's a culture of trading cards and characters and Nintendo and video games. And I feel like NFTs are this incredible bridge, like this tiger that's about to explode out as the collector world connects with the art world.
Yeah, Pokemon, like it's been around, and I think Japan, I don't know if you heard the word Galapagos, Japan. It's like it's a thing that in Japan, a lot of technologies develop quite different from the US or Europe because of the language barrier. So the mobile phones, we used to call garake because it's a Galapagos mobile phone. So the phones used in Japan were different from like phones outside. So it's only like after iPhone that Japanese people started using like same kind of phones. So it like, yeah, but then there's interesting culture, like emoji was developed in the Japanese Pacific. And looking at Web3, I think Japan is developing in a very different way from US or Europe. So I'm seeing that there are more, like for example, Yamakoshi is a village in Japan where they used NFT to try to create a community of people. Yamakoshi, I'm sure like Toshi from KUMALEON is founded the project, but Yamakoshi is a really countryside town, village with not many people. And they try to create a digital village through selling NFT. So like using NFT for these, trying to save a dying village or trying to use NFT for something like social good is more prominent in Japan, I think. And so there's more, like mayor of Shibuya is really interested in using NFT and tokens to make Shibuya a better place to live for people. And I also did a class, I did an NFT workshop in my university, and I can see some students coming to see this talk. And a lot of the students are producing very, like social good, charitable causes. So I feel like because of the language barrier, I can see Japan with the culture of Pokemon and the manga, anime, and the media arts, and a little bit capitalism is kind of seen as a, not like in Japan compared to, I think everywhere compared to the US, I think a little bit. Like it's not super capitalistic kind of culture. So I think people tend to work together, tend to share. So I see it developing in a very different way. The kind of people in NFT sphere is like more like down-to-earth artists compared to like, yeah, let's make money quick kind of type. That's my observation of Japan.
That's wonderful. I think we're running out of time,
Yeah.
but I think that's a very appropriate way to end this initial conversation about NFTs and the future of digital art and potential role of Japan in that conversation. I'm personally extremely excited about that. And I think from what you've said, it seems to me that there is something that maps Japanese cultures onto this perhaps community-based approach to creativity. So I want to just finish by thanking Sputniko for participating and for helping to engineer this event, which is, I think, really special for all of us. And Seth Goldstein, Bright Moments. I think everybody's really excited about Tokyo in May. And thank you for all you do for the space. So thanks for listening.
Thank you, Alex.
And thank you, everyone, wherever you are.
ありがとうございました。
ありがとうございます。
続きましてですね、2時からですね、東京オタクカルチャーと NFT というテーマでお送りしていきたいと思いますので、またしばしお待ちくださいませ。ありがとうございます。 私で4名で話を進めていきたいと思います。よろしくお願い
Okay,
いたします。
we would
では
like to
ご登
get
壇者の皆様
started.
よろしくお願いします。
So, panelists, please take the, please come on stage.
こんにちは。
Can you hear me?
ありがとうございます。
Yes.
ちょっと司会
Thank
をや
you.
りながらこっちにも来てという感じで忙しいん
So,
ですが、
I will be the
皆さん
moderator,
よろしくお願いしま
but
す。
also serving as a panelist.
軽くこう
So, thank you
自己紹
all
介
for
どういう
joining.
ふうにやってるかみたいなのをこう
Could you start with your self-introduction, please? Starting with Emmy? Okay. Very nice to meet you all. I'm from Shinsei Galverse. My name is Emmy Kusano. We have 8,888 girl robots who would land on the planet and conduct various activities. So that is our project. Today I am going to speak in Japanese.
So if you are interested in listening to English version, there's a live streaming. ですよね。
はい。
はい。
Is that true?
よろ
Yes.
しくお願いします。
So
ありがとうござ
please
います。
log on to YouTube if you want to listen to English translation.
有限のファウンダーのロック
Rock-san?
と言います。
Yes, I am
有限
Rock,
というプロジェクトは
founder of
10
Yugen.
月に
This project
で先月ですね。
was minted in October, just about a month. So it's a relatively new project.
の
You mentioned that 8,888, and we also started with 8,888 3DG avatars. And we want to distribute or disseminate Tokyo culture to the rest of the world. And we want to do this simultaneously. And the people who share this culture is increasing. The number of people who share this culture is increasing. So we would like to create this type of community. And we would like to make new movements in this space. Thank you.
ありがとうございます。
Thanks for your introduction.
こんにちは。
Moving on, Tamonoki-san. My name is Tamonoki.
何だろうな。NFT アート
What am I?
ですね。
I am
テーマにした。
the director of NFT Art Tokyo.
始めたんですけども。
Initially, I started it because we wanted to have a group to drink out. But the number of members increased, and therefore we became incorporated. And at Trunk Hotel, we throw events, and the second event was event took place just recently. We want to support artists. We want to make room for artists to express themselves and to communicate with their fans. So community engagement offline is something that we are trying to do with our events. I personally, this is Stone Pixel Human, an NFT project that has been ongoing for a year, and I work for a company named Mercari. So thank you.
改めましてトシと言います。よろしくお願いします。私は
And my name is Toshi.
というコレクションだったり、クマレオンというコレクションを
I manage Generative Max and KUMALEON
日頃はですね、ジェネラティブアート
at the backstage. On a day-to-day basis, we promote projects for NFT. And regarding KUMALEON, we have a 3D model of KUMALEON the character, and we are utilizing generative art so that you can have different kinds of KUMALEON. This is a bit anime-like, this character, so that is why I am paneling this session. I have a KUMALEON and a generative mask and Yugen and so Galverse as well. I'm a collector. That's true. So you have actually completed your collection in that sense. Yes, that's true. Today we would like to be very casual. and open. So today, we are going to talk under the title Tokyo Anime Culture and NFTs. So Japanese anime would obviously be one of the topics, and how we can have NFT connected to anime culture is something that I'm interested in asking you. Emi-san, what about you? Okay, let me start. So especially when it comes to artwork, we didn't have the intention of venturing overseas initially. I was an artist supporting musicians, for example, and I feature nostalgic cultures in the 80s and 90s, and I, as an artist, tended to create something from that time period. And the Galverse type of style is what I like, and my members also love this style. Initially, when I came into NFT market, there were many anime-inspired NFTs in the market. However, Japanese people were not involved, and we had girlish type animes, but Galverse is not like that. We want cool girls, some type of character that we as a young child aspired to. So we wanted to create that, and this was something that we thought could empower our community, and we wanted these cool girls to be part of our Galverse. That was the initial thinking. So you just started with something that you liked, and then eventually that evolved into an NFT project. That is true. But through Twitter and other media, we have been trying to send out the information regarding our projects, and then we got connected with the rest of the world. Ayaka and I have been really involved or immersed in the type of anime that we liked when we were younger. And then we have like Magic Girls, and we wanted to recreate that type of anime from the early Heisei period. And then we added some other contexts as we developed. So you don't have to keep orders. We can have a session, really. But I thought that was so interesting what you just said. When it comes to anime, any Japanese would have had experience in anime and drawing pictures. And I used to work for a company which was a community of people who drew and were illustrators. And these are very common among the Japanese people, but not maybe so outside of Japan. So I think we have a creator gene. So many of the people who are not in Japan have a hard time drawing pictures, for example, and NFT really goes well with that type of creator mentality, and that can spread overseas, I believe, as Emi-san just mentioned. I agree. And Shonen Jump, which is a comic book for boys in Japan, and intellectual property created from Shonen Jump is huge, and you will see a lot of girls. There's a shop downstairs, and you see a lot of girls coming. So maybe it's called Shonen Jump or Boys Jump, but it should be renamed as Girls Jump, because a lot of girls are reading this comic magazine. So we really had the market of otaku who really wanted pretty girls, but this has diversified, and probably that's supporting or driving Galverse, because we have a new community of fans. Moreover, I think we're globalizing, which is a very important factor. I think Japanimation, as it was called, is over. We have a lot of creators from overseas now. So in that sense, it looks like a Japanese anime and a Japanese NFT, but sometimes the creators are from Southeast Asia, US, Chinese. So these are being created simultaneously around the world in 2021, which is something to watch out for. So we were diversifying to begin with, but NFT visualized that. That is true. We now have new brands throughout the world, and this movement is happening simultaneously in many parts of the world.
This is a modern phenomenon from Tokyo. To provide answer is going to be an important point. Right now, many people are focused in the Japanese market and holding events. So I feel that Japan is attracting attention. Japanese anime, NFT, it came out last year. Among you guys, what was the passion? There was a phenomenon. And in the NFT scene, anime came in. And from your perspective, what was your impression? Did you think that you were more sophisticated? For example, I think about French wine. Wines are produced across the world, but French wines, people do want to drink French wines. And Japanese creatives and anime, there are Netflix and Amazon. Such platform can be used to simultaneously watch contents. But the creators have such a resentment. It is like French winemakers who are feeling that their culture is to be understood when enjoying their wines. So same applies to Tokyo's culture, the inbound content. Well, NFT at Tokyo's initiative is along those lines. The more the competition, the quality will improve because think about ramen. It's all really, really good because there are so many ramen shops in Tokyo. So through competition, quality improves. NFT at Tokyo, I think, I hope that it will become artist platform. So when the market is activated, more good things will be born. So in Japan, as the nation of origin, if we can activate the contents, then that would be a good thing. The trend of NFT on monthly basis, new things will come out, and each has a so-called counter culture. For instance, hiding your name is cool, or AC is very active, but that is only for Caucasian. Asian Basie was sought after, and Hasaqui was born. But then there's Galverse that Japanese has created. The world of women, force beauty. There are projects focusing on women. And the existence of Galverse, Betty of Deadfeld said that women and female, even if that is not in the front, then Galverse fashion in itself is an attitude, and that is empowering women. I was pleased to hear her comment. In this market, the collection such as Galverse, it does not exist. So Galverse can become a counter, and there is a winning path. So Galverse was not similar to any other collection. And in those days, it was April of this year. I feel like it was a long time ago. Anime didn't didn't exist in that space, and Galverse was standing out. I think that's why it became really active. Everybody thought that the Azuki was Japanese, but actually it was not, and it was mostly men. And so while World of Women was involved, and then Galverse was attracting attention, and the horizontally long image was at the center. I think it is similar to hip hop culture, like sampling and counter culture. For instance, this kind of counter is cool, so people want to support that. So, like Zero One creation, NFT creation, and also subcultures behind that towards the modern art scene, how to counter them. In the current NFT market, that is a very important viewpoint. Galverse, it's a woman and anime, and base is Evangelion-like or Akira-like, core men's boys' school type of world with diversity. So that was unique. So it's more open Japanese culture. Japanese that viewpoint is important. I also feel sympathy towards counterculture. The timing and the Japanese culture in your collection is being fused. And KUMALEON, well, my focus is mostly generative art. And with it is positioned at a very high level modern art, and that in itself is a happy thing. On the other hand, generative art itself is difficult to touch or difficult to enter. Within NFT scene, Japanese illustration, by combining them, many people can come in and join. So that was why KUMALEON was born and collaborating with artists. So cultural side and timing-wise, if those are handled correctly, then there is opportunity. Speaking of Yu-Gi-En, and I talk about Yu-Gi-En, this is monkey mask. Basically, achieved oligopoly of Yugarapo, and in terms of culture, it became like a GAFA of culture, and the story imagines the dystopia in 2050 when everything was acquired by a monkey avatar. The monkey planet, a planet of the apes, and the Web3 world. What happens in the future? And so this is based on such imagination. It is avatar, but the boys and girls who can buy masks, counters, and opposes. So it's like a counterculture to rebuild cyberbank from Tokyo. So the premise of this project is counterculture. It's very cool. I want to ask Tamonoki-san, when NFT Art Tokyo was started in Japan, there were many IR events, and I felt that that was extremely popular. I stand on the position of operate the collection and activate the collection, and Art Tokyo, NFT Art Tokyo was created, and where did that energy come from? It was really excited. it is very simple. Timing was right. NFT in it was week after NFT New York. So everybody wants to come back from NFT New York and talk about NFT New York, and people who couldn't go to NFT New York is interested to hear. So the timing was best. As that's why there were a lot of pent-up energy. We also issued corporate passes, and that was one trigger. Murakami-san also came. The energy was there, and it was ignited in a good way. The current representative and the community was really good. They are so knowledgeable. They talk about the topic forever. So there was such energy, and in my view, it was just the timing. So I remember talking about visiting NFT New York. Everybody wants to talk about this, and everybody was watching online. And in addition to that, the real conversation, by combining that, there was a hypothesis thinking that we can further enhance the energy. Currently, there are real events taking place, but at that time, there were not many real face-to-face events yet. Online is very important, but offline, well, I expect the events to become more diverse. Anime and other areas. The basis of anime culture is to create excitement through offline events. So it's things will start from conversation such as what do otaku people like. So the way of enjoyment can be diversified. When you talk about Japanese market, NFT Tokyo is June and Galverse is April. When you check the Google Trend, you can see that the April to June period, from that timing, NFT Web3 in Japan have clearly changed. It's clearly Galverse Forbes article was the focus, and the timing was good. It may be a coincidence, but NFT at Art Tokyo was in June. But globally, that is the timing when the trend became bearish. But in Japan, after June, the excitement is expanded and the flame is still burning. Globally, at NFT projects are struggling, but excitement in Japan is maintained. So why Japan is strong? It is an opportunity. The situation of gift pair, I don't like it. So I feel that Japanese members should improve the presence. So smallness of the community is one good element. It's not just the Web3 Discord, but it's easier to develop a real face-to-face community. And Tokyo is the center, and distance-wise, you can really meet each other, and everybody is connected through stakeholders. So work together, and nationality-wise, purchasing this artwork and then nurture and enjoy the particular character. That is the culture based on anime. I think that is there. Same can be said for Pokemon and Pokemon culture. The secondary create addition to the initial work. Such culture is there, and Hatsune Miku is another example. So it's something that fans do naturally, not to make money, but just as part of the enjoyment. So that is the basis, strong in Japan. I also used to work for a company called Animate. The community there is extremely strong. When you go to the head office in Ikebukuro, people are gathered and chatting, just chattering in front of the park. So the excitement or the energy of the community is very strong. So how can we link them to NFT and disseminate the next anime culture to the world? I think there's opportunity, and that's the key. The relative terms, viewers of anime is increasing. Then Generation Z and Alpha, they are watching animation through Netflix from all generations. So I think the critical moment will come in the near future. In order to develop this as a true culture, what can NFT community can do? And one creation community already exists, and how to multiply and how to gather people. That would be an important mission of ourselves.
I understand. So when I look around, I feel that Japanese people really don't know their strength. Especially when it comes to anime, this is Japan made. So cartoon exists in other parts of the world, but it's only the Japanese version that is called anime. It belongs to us. So it has to do with the culture of people who are very good at drawing pictures and who are really good at enjoying anime. I think Amy-san is doing a great job in really shedding light on its strength, but it's just the beginning. I totally agree. We were talking about counter cultures, which created new cultures, and in Japan we have our unique culture movement, which was not in line with what was happening around the world, but there was a unique timing in which our culture flourished, and now we are attracting attention from the rest of the world. So going forward, globally speaking, how good is NFT in Japan, and how could we grow? I think that's a challenge we'll face in 2023. With that understanding, what are your thoughts? What are some of the areas in which you would like to see more movement? And today, this event is broadcasted live with English translation. So what should we do next? Education. Education? Yes. Cryptocurrency, blockchain, all these are not being taught in Japan. I think people know very little about these technologies. There aren't many Ethereum holders in Japan, and they don't know about the technology. So we have people who are powerful, and these people can be educated so that they will get more involved. When compared to the rest of the world, I think there is sarcasm towards crypto technology. So maybe we can really change that. So we threw events in Shibuya because we wanted people to be interested. We didn't want to attract just the nerds. So that is why we chose Trunk Hotel, a very fashionable hotel, as a venue. And a lot of girls came. So that was our intention. What about you? When it comes to Web3 and NFT, Shibuya is the heart of movement. We can make Shibuya the heart of such movements. And manga culture, anime culture can become very symbolic in this new movement, which I think is great. It's not for the travelers who come to Shibuya who can enjoy that, but I want people to be able to connect online and in the metaverse, and we need branding in that sense. We need to create a universe. And these activities have already started. Towards next year, Padco and Digital Garage, they are talking with us regarding potential events next year. We want you to share the learnings from Yu-Gi-En. Of course, we want to work with you. Because the quality is so high, your website is well curated, and the Discord, I think these types of knowledge and experience needs to be shared. Well, when it comes to our projects, we don't consider them as our own brands. Rather, we would like it to be kind of a stage on which we can collaborate. So it's not really IP, but we want to become a venue, almost like Palco, today's venue. But when it comes to platforms, we are dubious in a sense. We don't want another GAFA. We want a metaverse that is more niche, like Nakano Broadway in Japan. We want to become a place where people gather and enjoy themselves. When it comes to Galverse, we are creating our own anime, and we want to mobilize Web3 community in creating this anime. I, as a creator, I need to execute this very well. When it comes to NFT and Web3 community as a whole, as Tamonoki-san mentioned earlier, improving or enhancing literacy and providing education would become essential going forward. The Japanese public in general only started to be interested in NFT last year, and my son started a zombies project, and that became very popular, through which NFT has become well known. And then we started this funding mechanism through Galverse, and thousands of girl characters that we provide. NFT is just a tool that anybody can use. That was the message that we wanted to send out. So if you look at NFT from just one angle, you cannot understand the whole picture. So sometimes influencers would buy an NFT and that becomes very valuable, or community supports this through crowdfunding. This has been quite normal in the space of fine art, which also applies to NFT, so it's not one-sided. You need to be really diverse in approaching NFT. You can apply that to apparel industry as well, architecture, you name it. So we need interdisciplinarity in that sense. And we need to connect these different movements. I want to become the connector. So we have been talking about education, and I have a question along these lines. So why did you enter the space of NFT? Tamonoki-san mentioned enhancing literacy in Japan. So there are some players who have already created their own collections and entered the market. But when it comes to the number of collectors themselves and those who would become secondary creators, we need a lot of each. And what do you think about it? So I think we shouldn't raise the bar. Digital marketing-wise, and I do advertising because I come from an ad agency, and we produce produce things, advertisements, and creatives that come with ads. Those involved in this industry should have an easy time entering the NFT market because it's very diverse. So these are people who are generalists, good at many things. These people will fit in the NFT market. They do have the competency already, but they have not yet entered the market, in my point of view. So we have a lot of people to educate, but we also have people who can educate. We want them to be part of this movement, to have that face, and maybe 100 projects, if we can create that, then that's going to be a game changer. That's so interesting. Amy's son became quite famous on TV, and I think that was a very good example. Meaning, we are sending a message that even a small child can create NFTs. That is so true. And Emi-san was the producer supporting her son. But I am sure that there were things that even you couldn't figure out initially. But working together with your son, you were able to come to a point where you could really create your own work. And I think this can be replicated. Sometimes you don't need that much funding. The first step forward would be necessary. But why cannot they enter? Even when I start having conversations like this, I often feel that we're not on the same page. Well, in my case, I had a lot of spare time. People are too busy. And I think the settlement, whether that can be done by yourself, is important. Like in the case of Emi, I own a company, so I can do the settlement in an individual manner. But when it comes to legal matters and accounting matters, probably that becomes an obstacle. And people think that maybe we are too early to get into this market. If you have a top-down approach, starting from the CEO, then probably you can do that just with a small group of people. That's so true. I think a lot of the major players in this market consist of small groups. And all the tech companies in the US and Europe, we don't have that many people who are running the show. They have only a handful of people who have several hundreds of millions of assets. So unless you work in a small group, you cannot have a quick decision-making and catch up with the speed. For example, what you prepared 3 months ago will not really be suitable for the market after 3 months. So you really need to be quick to adapt to the changing environment. And in order to do so, you need a small group. Yeah, they're all in early 20s when they started working on NFT, and they had a lot of spare time back then. And all the busy people, they say, okay, crypto seems like something with risk, NFT is not really taking off, and things like that. They are dubious about the technology. But going forward, I think people will all carry around digital wallets and benefit from the crypto technology. That is so true. So I think it's bipolar, meaning some people are very dubious about the technology and some people are all in and always talking about the metaverse and how things can change in this space. But that's not going to happen. We're talking about tens of millions of yen worth of profit, and it's just that. And we can have 5 to 6 projects in a portfolio. Let the youngsters handle this. This is the kind of approach that could be successful in small companies. Well, when I started Generative Masks, I was just a crypto nerd, and I totally had time to spare. So what you said resonates with my experience. So that means that if you start, then you can continue. At the Tokyo University of Arts, along with Sputniko, we are giving courses. And the people have lots of ideas about blockchain and NFT. After we give a 1 hour, 2 hour lecture, they on their own can come up with their own ideas to utilize the technology, maybe better so than the big companies and the big ad agencies. They are very flexible in their thinking. When I talk to businesses, they will only talk about NFT, is it profitable, or it's metaverse, right? That's the end of the conversation. But they really don't think about what kind of crowdfunding it would fit in and what kind of technology would work best. These are thought better by the students. Where are the students from Tokyo University of the Arts? Were there. Okay. So I saw their presentations and I was very impressed because many were so interesting. After session 4, we will have a presentation by them, one of the outstanding projects that they have come up with. So stay around until they present. I was so impressed when I saw the presentation. It's not about experience, it's all about idea and motivation. That's great because we have tons of opportunities. The US is slowing down. A lot of art students have opportunities, I believe. I come from an arts background as well. And when it comes to creativity and creation, I think it allows for easier entrepreneurship. When you are a creator, you don't automatically think about creating a startup company, but I think they can become a central player in this field. They should utilize the opportunity.
Blockchain technology is not out yet. Generative mask is great, but it's going to change. The technology that will change. I think those are not fully utilized. Blockchain and Web3 specific expression can be pursued. Some people with completely different things may emerge. It is an opportunity for students at the Tokyo University of the Arts. Such sense is held by younger generation. My son, he is trading Pokemon card when he wakes up in the morning at Mercari. Floor check price is what he does. He checks the price fluctuation of the Pokemon cards. As all has asset liquidity. People who were born in 2010. Christmas presents, birthday presents, they are all digital because they are thinking of secondary market. So Apple Card or Roblox, that is the mainstream now. Roblox for birthday present, that is quite common. The second most popular was Lego, but other than that, most popular Christmas presents are digital. So if that generation starts to handle NFT, it's going to create a lot of changes. Secondary market is a norm. So we count on you, students of the Tokyo University of the Arts. 3 minutes remaining. Lastly, any final messages you would like to make? You are operating collections and communities and towards the world. We want people in the world to know that what you guys are doing is really interesting. Any messages or comments that you would like to make? Yes. Yugi is Yugi is play in Japanese, so that's how we started. with everybody of the world, across generation, across all ages. We want to play together. Thank you.
ぜひみんなで Web3 コミュニティ発ア
So
ニメを一緒に作り
together,
ましょう。
let's develop a Web3 community-based
見に来てくだ
anime.
さい。よろしくお願いします。
Please come watch our anime.
僕はそうね。矢面に立ってガンガンやる人もいれば、
It-
裏で支える人
There are some people who stay at the forefront and also supporting from behind. And NFT Art Tokyo would be is the supporter from the background. And we also are looking for additional supporters.
遊びに行きます。
お願いします。
I will go visit you. Thank you.
まあ、クマレオンとかですね、まあ、あとジェネラティブマスク
KUMALEON and generative masks are born from Japanese culture, and also combination with the Japanese illustration would be presented, and that would be unique expression only that we can create. So KUMALEON and generative masks, please keep your eyes on these two. It's time, so I would like to close the session now. Thank you very much. Thank you. Next session will start from 3 p.m. We would like to take a break until 3 o'clock.
セッションの合間の休憩時間ですけれども、ここでサポーターのですね、紹介をさせていただき
We
ます。
would like to introduce the supporters.
サポートをいただいてます Rising Bird Japan のですね、
Rising Bird Japan supports this operation. This is Yuta-san. Hello, I am Yuta. I get really nervous standing here. I'm Yuta from 8th Ship. This time, I'd like to introduce Rising Birds, and as H6, I am participating in this event. 8 Ships is a global community connecting Japan and the world. And as Web3's hub, this organization is working together. The founder, Terry, has been running education-related company for 20 years, and the mentorship program for 15 years, and also working in Cambodia. And he's quite active in the world of NFT. I believe some people in this room have met Terry. I myself, from more than 10 years ago, have been acquainted with Terry through the mentorship program. 8 Ships and Rising Birds. There are a lot of people in Japan saying that there's no means to connect to the world from Japan. There are artists working in Japan, but they say that it is very difficult to connect to the world. So 8 Ships, Rising Birds, we are supporting artists and projects and founders and companies that are yet to go into Web3. And we are creating a format for something that is exciting. We are targeting to become the bridge for that, so that many people can be connected to the world. Moon Birds Japan Community's curation activity is one initiative. We are also operating 8 Academy to learn about this area, and there are around 40 creators operating on day-to-day basis. As Rising Birds curation mentor, Toshino-san is involved, and the way of thinking and the direction, if it is in sync with yours, let's work together.
はい、ありがとうございました。
Thank you very much.
それではですね、今しばらくお待ちいただいて、3時から次のセッションに
Please wait before the next session starts. The next session will start from 3 p.m.
はい、まもなく、セッション3が始まりますので、お席にお戻りいただければと思います。
Session 3 will start shortly. Please go back to your seat, please.
はい、それではセッション3ですね。Generative Art と NFT
We will start the session 3. The topic is generative art and NFTs. We have 4 artists participating in this session. They are the people who are producing generative arts, and we are hoping to hear from them the situation. The panelists, please come on to the stage.
こんにちは。
Good afternoon. This session is titled Generative Art and NFTs. In Japan, to what extent generative art is being recognized? There are some unknown areas. Today we have Alexis André, myself is Shunsuke Takawo, and Ehara Saeko-san, and YK. These are the 4 people to talk about the situation in Japan and talk about the activities of the artists. Fortunately, 4 of us knows the global market and active in started to work in the global market. So we would like to talk about the background and activities and what are the challenges we are facing, and in the future, what are the prospects. We would like to have a free discussion. So does it sound good? Yes, sounds good. Some members I met for the first time today, so I'm a little bit nervous, but we would like to enjoy and make this session a good one. I would like to ask each person to introduce yourself and talk about the works, starting from you. Thank you. I speak Japanese. My name is Alexis André. I came from France. 20 years ago, I came to Japan. So I've been continuing gradually for the past 20 years, and I started to sell NFT art from 2020 from Super Layer, and Artbox was launched, and I thought that it is very suitable for our art and my art, and I was chosen as the curative artist, and I think my work is 27,000 pieces in total, and I think that's the largest number, so in a way I'm successful. 27,000 includes your latest work of friendship, art blocks. This bracelet, if those of you who know would recognize this bracelet, I would like to talk about this later in more detail. Thank you. Next is myself. My name is Shunsuke Takawo. My title is Creative Coder. Using code and using programs freely, sketches are drawn. From around 2015, I started to draw every day, and I am continuing right now. Day-to-day basis, I do coding, and while I do, I have an opportunity to communicate with a lot of people, and in 2021, I released a project called Generative Masks, And in 2 hours after launch, my work was sold out. The timing was good. And currently, in generative masks, 3D print mask edition is under preparation for release. Next week in London and in a gallery in Bath, a new Japan edition, limited edition will be released. So, daily coding activities and NFT activities, those are 2 wheels. Nice to meet you. My name is Saeko Ehara. Last year, from June, I started NFT. In the past, as a VJ, I've been working as a VJ, and my title includes artist and VJ, and mostly at arenas and concert halls. In those places, I've been working as VJ for J-pop artists. After COVID-19, all the VJ work disappeared, and I thought there is an opportunity. I developed the work, and I started to put them on SNS. And right after that, NFT came out, and platform-wise, Super Reani is the one I joined, and Foundation. And at Tezos, I mostly upload my works. The platform, because I'm a VJ, there are physical works as well. And I've been asked to develop artwork, and I've been presenting at art festivals. At the end of October, Mood Liad in Saudi Arabia. It was together with Laser and other artists, I presented my work. Thank you, Saeko-san. Next, YK. My name is ykxotkx. It's called ykxotkx because it's a difficult name. I asked to be called YK. My artist activities at Tezos blockchain for the past year at FX Hash, I'm releasing my works, and constantly I'm releasing my work. And gradually, my work has been recognized by collectors. And this time, I've been asked to speak today. Similar to Takao-san, I also do creative coding, and my title is Creative Coding.
Thank you very much. So, here are the panelists, and our activities involve visual creation. Therefore, maybe it is worthwhile if we showed our works. So please, if you're interested, type in our names and do a search so that you can take a look at our pieces of work. So in session 2 today, we talked about manga and anime, and then the connection between Japanese culture and NFT. As I was listening, I was thinking, when it comes to generative art and NFT, there seems to be a difference. And I say that because they talked about warming up of the market, or the market in Japan being generous. But when it comes to generative art, it is not well known in Japan. And so we need to release our works in the global scene, especially in the English-speaking cultures. So pretty different from the kind of market that they discussed, because they said that they were impacted by the bearish market. So based on that, we might be able to discuss what kind of challenges we are feeling in Japan. What do you think about the Japanese scene and the Japanese artists, Alexis? Well, that's a broad question. When it comes to generative art, it's rather abstract, meaning technology is used and programming is involved in order to create art. So it's on the opposite of traditional art. It's about the state-of-the-art technology. So when it comes to the Japanese market, we do have traditional artists using technology as well. And these people are constantly creating something new, and they have been successful. But my question is, why do people want reproductions of traditional art from the 80s, for example? I am not trying to pick a fight, but anime characters from the 80s are being reproduced as NFTs. But I think a lot of new things are also happening. I have been living in Japan for 20 years. I have been impacted by the Japanese culture. I think my style reflects that of Tokyo. So the aesthetics of Japan is being built into my art, but it doesn't seem to go out globally. So even when we talk about the bearish market, I have a very popular project, which I am taking this opportunity to release. And some of the forerunners have already disappeared. And if you're an artist who is well established, then I think they also have a lot of opportunities in this current market condition. That is my take on things. So Japan has a unique sense of style. All of you must share that. And I think you should show that to the rest of the world, and then you can win in this market. Why aren't you doing so actively? Well, we are Japanese. We have Japanese culture as a background. And when it comes to coding and generative art, you see that we have an upper hand, right? And why aren't we more aggressive in venturing out to the global market? It must be your question. But when it's a code-based generative art, we have platforms that are open. Therefore, there is no reason why we shouldn't release our works there, right? Well, I understand your question, but it's hard to answer. Maybe the language barrier is one of the challenges, no? Well, I'm not sure if people are thinking about it as an art or play. I don't like the word creative coding because it makes it sound as if coding is not creative. But, you know, this differentiation between art and play is something that has been circling around in my mind. So I like it. I like that question. YK, what about you? Well, it's only been a year since I've entered the market, so I'm still developing my capabilities. But when it comes to creative coding that I do on a regular basis and my art pieces, there is a difference in motivation and the level of technology and effort that I put in. So there is a line between the two. So when it comes to creative coding, I do it in order to enhance my capabilities. But sometimes in those daily works, I feel that, okay, this can become an art piece from which I start developing the piece of work as art. Then you can call yourself artist instead of creative coder. But Alexi and YK are similar in what you are doing from my point of view. So you are based on technology, but you end up creating pieces of art. I think that's quite natural, but that's what you do. That said, I see a connection between the two of you, but I'm slightly different. I do feel it important to create my own art piece, but my day-to-day creative coding and to spread the technology seems to generate more motivation to me. So you are a craftsman in a sense. Yes, that's right. As Alexi mentioned earlier, when it comes to traditional art, so we are using coding and crafting. That's how I see myself. So going forward, I want to be a human, like a person who will be awarded a prize for his traditional artwork. But I am not sure if the direction in which I'm headed is the right one. Listening to the question, I felt that Alexis has a clear line between art and non-art. And I was thinking about it. When I see Twitter and people's tweets, even when I upload something as daily coding, they might perceive it as a piece of art. So there is a difference in perception. So how are you differentiating the two? Well, in my case, you mean? Yes. But you have been around for the longest period of time, right? You had an intermission, but you have been coding on a daily basis, right? That's true. I think my art pieces are like sketching. You have a sketchbook and you draw, reflecting how you feel that day. And my level of completion is very low. Unless I keep it low, I cannot continue because we are releasing our works on a daily basis. But when it comes to creating art, there's something that you want to share with other people. And sometimes I feel that I can authorize it as a piece of art, and there is some kind of message behind it. In those cases, I call it art. So I sketch on a regular basis, almost every day, and I have created 10,000 pieces so far, which I have shared already, and I have sold them. But I don't necessarily call them my art pieces. These sketches attract certain attention, and if they want it, I can sell it. So, you know, sketches from old painters mean something. People put value on these. But these sketches are not called art pieces of theirs, right? So it's similar. Okay, Takao-san mentioned something earlier, which is why don't Japanese people create more artwork? In order to answer that, I think people perceive certain pieces of work as just daily coding, and they have a higher bar when it comes to art pieces. So sometimes in your daily work, creating daily coding, you might get something that's beyond the threshold, like you can score 300 out of the maximum 100. So maybe if you feel a little more relaxed about sharing your works, that could be a push for many who are undecided whether they want to make their works NFT. That is true. I mean, you can't really lose anything by releasing your works. You almost feel that you need to sold out. But even if you have leftovers, you can just say that, okay, I'm cataloging them for the future. I think a lot of creators are not joining the market because they are anxious that they will not be accepted, that they have not been able to create something of value, but they have to overcome that psychological hurdle and change their mindset in order to their works. It's almost like a difference between the pros and amateurs. Amateurs tend to think that, okay, I am creating for fun and I don't have to sell. But professionals think differently, right? Okay, when it comes to pros and amateurs, or like major labels and indie labels, when it comes to artist activities, these always abound. And when you have to draw a line between what becomes your main line of work and what becomes a side job. In my case, well, it's hard to describe, but whatever I do, I don't think I could work as an artist, as the main line of work. Meaning, my artist activities are like a side job. I'm not a mainstream. Alexis and YK, you are the mainstream artist kind. I'm not. I am on the backside. And that, I think, would be the ideal balance. Well, being an artist can come in many ways. It doesn't always have to be the same. So whatever suits you should be what you pursue. But when you sell your work, you must have intentionally done that. So you said that you're not the mainstream, but you started selling your pieces of work. So where did that idea come from? Well, that's the thing. There is ambivalence in my thinking. I have an artist side, I have an educator side, and I have a difficult time placing myself. I sometimes take the middle path or even the opposite side. But as I mentioned earlier, there can be many ways. It doesn't mean that only the mainstream artists can release their pieces of work. So I'm like a bat in that sense. I'm not a bird, I'm not an animal, I'm not a mammal. So I'm a bat.
YK, what about you? What made you want to start to sell your work? In my case, what triggered me to sell generative art is that last year, NFT world was quite active and generative mask of Takawo-san and Art Blocks News was center of the attention, and I got interested and looked at the works and looked at what's going on behind. I'm originally a software developer, and using softwares, the creative activity can be done. That is a very interesting thing. And I felt a large potential, so that's why I wanted to start myself. At that time, as NFT platform, art blocks and FX hash were suitable. The work that I made can be presented to the world instantaneously. So that's why I tried. You are a very, very active person. I wanted to ask YK a question. In the process of creating works, the recent works, I sense some science fiction and a common theme. Where does it come from? Well, where that came from? I create generative arts, but I tend to focus on the reality. There's a work called flower arrangements, and how can express that in codes and also include the generative art element. That's the part I'm interested in. So that's why my work tends to be like that. In terms of the relationship of the works, it's between concreteness and coding. In your case, Saeko-san, you create glittering gems. Where does that come from? In my case, the memory from childhood is the source of my works. As was said in the previous session, I used to watch anime and I was surrounded by Japanese culture. So Sailor Moon cards was part of my collection and glittering stickers. I also love to collect them. And I was enjoying watching them. And it was so fun. I lost track of time. So the feeling of the time, I wanted to express in some form. So that's why I'm creating a lot of works. The surface of the art work may be different, but as the common theme in the background, there's my childhood memory. 3D objects are also structured. What are the softwares or applications you use? Recently, for Houdini is what I use to create 3D works. And Touch Designer, I also started to use during the past several weeks. And node-based, well, I cannot write codes myself. So node-based visual coding, node to be connected to create visuals, and is my method. So I use such software. The final finish, the sparkles, I use plugin of Adobe. 3D CGs in that world, I think there is one major trend and everybody's headed to the same direction. But Saeko-san, yours is different. At a glance, you can tell it's Saeko-san's work. So that is very nice. You have unique characteristics. You have your own style of work, and that is interesting. You use programs and nodes, but the outcome can be imagined. But in the end, you cannot tell. I write a program with a certain assumption, but in the end, the outcome is different. So that is why it's interesting. There are elements of unpredictability. That's why it interests me. In case of YK, you write code based on the concrete landscape. What about Takao-san and Alexis-san? You also have abstract works. Do you have a certain image in mind when you write a code? Or while you write codes, things develop? Which way? That is, there is a fundamental difference. Art blocks, you have to put the entire code on chain. As the text, you have to put it. So you have to make the code smaller, and just 1 ether is the cost for 40 kilo code. It has to be put on the chain. So how short can you make it? That's where the trick is. So abstract is easier from that perspective. The code is smart or not, they also look at that. Yes, there are many people who are looking at such side of the code to make it short and concise. And using such a concise code to generate various works will be highly valued. So that's more on the abstract side. And even if the code is complicated or short, in another platform, there's no difference. And YK, in your work, you try to make it concrete, and the volume or the length of code will be larger. In case of abstract work, you shorten the code, but still the output will be diverse. So that's the highly artistic side in case of art blocks. That's quite interesting. That is very different from Ethereum, and the collectors are looking at such a viewpoint. I didn't know about that, but that was until last year, and right now new contracts are much more cheaper. From last month, it's much cheaper. It's very good. In my case, how am I making? I really don't know. You create every day, so you have a certain volume of code you can write per day. So the size you can understand in a day. So I choose small topic and the challenge, sometimes successful, sometimes not, and then balance out. That's what I do on daily basis. Do you mint every day? No, not really. Maybe I should. Right, daily minty. Because of that, the generative art is you have good synergy with your work, and you don't rely with IPS, but you can recreate your work anywhere. The right to execute the code is NFT. Creation of new code, such a value is expressed by NFT. So there's no technology that is more perfect than this. In the past, Saeko-san, as well, you have to be there to enjoy particular content, but thanks to NFT, that barrier is removed by NFT. In the past, I was more event-based, like installation and event was made, and then gather customers and have it experienced. It's just a memory that remains, but that was the value of generative art. But thanks to NFT, that can be repeated. That's why it's perfect. So it's surfing on the wave at the right timing. It's an opportunity, great chance to release works. Well, on slightly different topic, why don't we discuss generative art in the Japanese current scene? What are the challenges and future directions? What are the issues, and how can we resolve them? Alexis talked about the Japanese people using art blocks and FX hash. Japanese people can make more challenges, and I agree to his comment. How can we gather people who want to make challenges and support them? Gradually, well, you're talking about foundation. Generative masks, that is my NFT project. It was a donation type of project, but artists' revenue was collected. So several organizations and NEORT in Japan was donated, and the donation activities ended for now. But Japanese generative art scene and creative code, the activities to express using codes, we want to spread and activate this area. So in April, we launched a small foundation, and myself and Alexis serve as the board member. And in this foundation, there are several things we want to do. Among them, one is to support and develop artists, to develop them as the global artists. How are we going to do that? There's a background. If there are people who don't know what to do, please contact us. I'm familiar with art blocks culture, and I realized using that. So if Japanese people want to challenge and use art blocks but don't know the English language, I can provide support. There are a lot of talents who could, with a small nudge, could succeed in a major way. And if there's a language barrier, we can support. And if the barrier is not knowing the structure of art blocks, I can also help. So please don't hesitate, and please feel free to contact us. As far as I know, there are a lot of artists in Japan, wonderful artists who can express using codes, and I would like to support together. There are two platforms. I haven't challenged these two platforms, so I may need Alexis and YK's help. 3 of us or 4 of us uses foreign platforms, and you chose original contract. That is challenging. But he proved that you can succeed by making a challenge. So at least you can immediately reach the global audience, and collectors who are interested in generative art have increased significantly lately. So there will be different markets developed, and Japan's unique taste can be utilized, and that can be really popular.
I agree. In addition, we can do a lot of research on the Japanese culture, and the Japanese people need to intentionally know better about the culture that we have and relearn its nature. I think that's important. When we created the Japanese version of generative masks, we thought about the color variation that exists in Japan, and I felt that maybe I was not so keen to know about these things before. Oh, that's really not necessary. as long as you live in Japan, you will be able to develop that taste. Of course, you need some reasoning, some background, in which case maybe you want to learn history and your message can be strengthened, but it's not absolutely necessary. Because a lot of you have great taste. You just don't know that you have it. So I went to an art blogs event in Texas in the US, and they had a very poor taste. You know that simultaneous interpreting is provided for this event, right? Are you sure you want to say that? That's okay. So, I think the Japanese people have great taste, they just don't know it, and on average, you have a great sense of style, so I want you to be confident. So we were hearing about the Japanese market earlier today. And as I was listening, I thought that Japanese people are quite proactive in raising money, like creating NFT projects, for example. Some are very business oriented. They are good at doing that. And I think that's one of the uniquenesses that the Japanese people have. And I'm not sure if you're on the same page with me on this, but we are coders, we are creators, we love what we do. And we don't necessarily think about making money off of what we produce, or we don't really think about how broadly our works can be shared. But when you compare that against the overseas market, which has become very bearish, we are of course impacted by that because our art pieces tended to be constantly sold in those markets, but that's no longer the case. And we are selling at a lower price point. And we can learn from the experience of the people who are major players in these markets. We can learn from their expertise and we can collaborate together. We can share information so that we can perform better. So have you been sharing information in the artist community? Well, people are just talking about how bearish the market has become, and they are not necessarily coming up with the solutions. I don't hear that much. Overseas agencies and artist curators are doing their best to showcase our pieces of work, but that doesn't automatically translate into sales. So there is uncertainty in the market right now. Even if people are exposed to something unique, that does not necessarily mean that these pieces of work get sold. But compared to that, the Japanese market hasn't slowed down that much. So maybe there are things to do, things that we can do in the Japanese market in order to activate it more. Thank you. So, in my case, I don't really differentiate between the Japanese market and the overseas market. I started launching my pieces of work on FX Hash, and this is a global platform. It doesn't cater to just 1 or 2 countries. As long as you upload your work, then that gets shared with the rest of the world. So because that was the beginning, I tended not to differentiate the Japanese market from other markets in the world. Even from the beginning, I thought that the global market seemed more interesting. That is why I started with FX Hash. And we have lots of ways to connect with artist collectors and the community nowadays. So that's how I got involved in this market. But there are many Japanese creators who have more experience than I regarding generative art. So I think if they can challenge themselves in platforms such as art blogs and FX Hash, that'll be great. What you just said about the bear market, I think that's kind of investor way of thinking. Even now in art blogs, some art pieces get sold out. And even if FX Hash, if you have a great piece of art, then that gets sold out too. The crypto market is bearish. So if you are only thinking of investing, you might lose. But when it comes to collectors of NFTs or generative arts, they buy what they like. So the activity has slowed down, but there still remains some level of activity. So I know that the cryptocurrency that I own have depreciated, but at the same time, I don't think the generative art market has slowed down or become bearish. I think we're still in a favorable condition. Japanese collectors tend not to buy as investment. They like the art piece, and that is why they buy certain art. So that is what we see in Japan. Less investment appetite and more about quality work. That is what we are seeing right now. So artists will be seen in their true colors, I believe, in this type of market condition. As I was listening to you speak, I thought that this type of change of perspective needs to be in place. You're not creating something for investment, but rather you're creating a piece of art. So why do we create and why do we make our works available? That is something that we have to think about. You need to be committed in what you sell. I think we have come to a good conclusion in that sense. So generative art and NFT can be better connected going forward, and more movement should come out in this market. If you are interested, please let us know. You can contact us individually. I think that concludes this session titled Generative Art and NFTs. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you. And Toshi is not here. I will take over as the moderator. So the next session will start in 5 minutes. Please take a short break. Thank you.
ありがとうございました。ありがとうございました。
Thank you so much.
はい、皆さんありがとうございました。ここで休憩なんですけれども、
Okay, we are going to take a short break, but we have a presentation from one of the supporters. In between sessions, we have this supporter presentation time. Next up is Neolt. Niinomi-san will give the presentation. The floor is yours.
Thank you for having me. And my name is Niinomi from Neolt Digital Platform. And please next. Yeah, we are a startup for digital art, and we are trying to make a new experience for digital art. And our main business is there are mainly two type of business we are doing. One is online platform Neolt, which is a platform for all digital artists, not only generative artists, but also video artists, illustrator, motion graphic or something, using digital technology. And everyone can submit their work onto the platform. And of course, they can be selling their work as NFT, and the collector can buy it. And that's the online platform. And the next one is Neolt 2, which is a physical art gallery, and that exists in Bakurocho, near to Akihabara. And we started this physical space from this April, and we hold 6 exhibitions so far from this April. And the artists are 8 artists in total. Include Alexis André and Takawo. They are here today. And please play the video. This could you play the video? This one. Yeah, this is the solo exhibition by Alexis André, and held in this June. Yeah, he made a new generative art and also sold them as NFT. And he made also the physical pieces of the work. And it's like a long scroll. And he is maybe making the physical scroll now, and they will be delivered to collectors. And please next. And now, we are just having a new exhibitions right now from yesterday, named Curation Free. We were making an exhibition with artists by curation for us, by us. But this time, we never curate artists. Instead, having the system, providing the system to artists, and they can submit their work onto the space, and all works submitted onto the platform will be displayed to the physical gallery. This image. So today is the second day of the exhibition. So if you have time, please come to the space. It's in Bakurocho. And the next exhibition is next year, January 7th to 22nd. The name is the Made in Contract. As the title says, focusing on the smart contract. And this is much conceptual one compared to the before. And the artists are 0x Hike, and both are the really conceptual work they made. And also me that will join the show. And this will be much exciting one, a little bit different from the previous one, the much conceptual, focusing on the smart contract, but the definitely exciting one. So please looking forward to the next show. Thank you.
はい、新浪さんありがとうございました。
Thank you very much, Niinomi-san. Okay, so please take a short break, and the last session, session 4, will start at 4 p.m.
はい、それではですね、4時になりましたので、セッション。
Okay, so it's now 4 p.m. We would like to begin session number 4. Session 4 is titled NFTs and the New Creator Economy. So this is about collection building and being an artist, but in addition to that, we talk about NFT and critiques towards NFT from the viewpoint of contemporary art. So that was the notion behind it, setting up this session for. We would like to invite the panelists now. Okay, shall we start with our own self-introductions? Okay, are we going to begin all of a sudden? There is no prologue to this part? Okay, let me talk about the title, NFTs and the New Creator Economy. This latter half is the title of a book that some of the members here published. I didn't book the panelists, but because we have authors of this book, that is why we chose the title to reflect the title of the book. So this session will focus on art and its relationship towards NFTs. Okay, so let us start with the self-introduction. Shikata-san, you start, please. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Shikata Yukiko. I'm a curator and I'm a critique of art. Currently, I teach at Tokyo Zoke University and Tama Art University, where I serve as the visiting professor. And I am also a board member of the Academic Society on Art. I have been giving lectures in a hybrid form throughout the year, but today I am here face to face. I'm a curator starting from the 90s, and when it comes to generative art, this started in the 2000s, early 2000s. Net out, software art, these are included. And commons was a concept that I got very much interested in. In the 2000s, digital commons became known. And nowadays, we're talking about biocommons. Within it, NFT is being talked about. So 20 years ago, when we talked about digital commons, there were online projects that I myself curated. But Shu Legion was a media artist who was an initiator, female Taiwanese, and we were initiators of this movement, and we developed a text project from Commons to NFT. This is the name of the project. Makery is a publication in Paris. This is the organization that releases publications. And every month, from January to July, we featured a critic. And in February, I was featured. And Takao-san's project was mentioned in it.
In Taiwan, in September, all texts were collected, and there was a Chinese data. And in November, in Slovenia, the paper version was issued. My second text is included in the Creator Economy, so that's why I'm invited today. I'm Shii from Startbahn. My title includes art beat representative and Tokyo University's research fellow at the production engineering department. I personally know about Professor Shikata from a long time ago, and I'm honored to be here together. And Hasaqui-san and Shono-san, I think this topic today can be very interesting. Let me briefly talk about my company. I'm from the oil painting area, and I aspire to become an artist. And through that process, I thought that information technology will contribute to the distribution and appraisal of the artwork. And I've been thinking about that from 2001, and that became part of my art-related activities. That's from around 2006. In the secondary market, the artists can receive the payment, and in that structure, I have a patent, and I've been working for social implementation. From 2014, I built a company, and blockchain and art, I noticed the two has synergies, and the concrete artworks blockchain certificate is one area that is very known. Shueisha Avant-Garde of Heritage, the One Piece is the manga, and blockchain certificate was issued for that work, and NFT Sotheby's Ryoichi to issue digital art, and I provided the infrastructure. So I have a book here, New Art Form. This was published quite recently. I read that book. When we talk about art, during the past 20 to 30 years, since Mr. Takashi Murakami, he became popular, high art and low art discussion started, and academia and various markets for art exists. And I think there is a major paradigm shift right now, and this book summarizes that, and I'm hoping to talk about that as well. My name is Shono. I'm a free editor. There's a magazine called Massage Magazine online, and I work on an independent basis. The information that general media don't publish is being published, and post-internet online art movement was one of the themes that I wrote, and vaporwave related to music. The culture that was created by new meme, those were my activities back in 2010. My activities slowed down, but summer of last year, NFT became quite active. My culture, well, this area, as an editor, I feel that this is my role, which is to plan for books online. The other day, the book was completed, and the title is New Creator Economy. I didn't bring my book. This is it. This was just launched. I thought you brought your book. I didn't bring it, but it was newly published. You worked really hard, right? 1 or 2 years ago, NFT was not really discussed from art perspective. So I thought that the book is necessary to summarize NFT and art. The subtitle is the new art form created by NFT. I did an ego search and searched my title, but this came up as a result of the search. Shii-san's publication was earlier than this book, and I read the reviews of this book. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Hasaqui. Personally, I Number Girl, the rock band representing Japan, is going to be dissolved. I have the ticket, but I didn't go to that concert, but rather I chose to come to this event. That is because I feel the importance of this event. Look at the panelists. There's a SHIKATA-san, a professional of SHIKATA art, of SHIKATA-san of media art, and artists of video media is being seen by this person, Shikata-san. Well, it's good that I didn't go to the concert but came here because I was able to talk to Seth of Bright Moment, and he gave me this. So I'm happy that I came here today. So why am I here? From the beginning of this year, I was invited by Toshi-san, one of the organizers, modern art and NFT art. Can't we connect the two? Well, I operate such a space, and in April, Proof of X NFT as a new media art. That was the name of the exhibition I participated. I participated based on a text. And Kato Akihiro-san, are you here? He's right there. Together with Toshi-san and members from the TART, naturally joined together and created an exhibition. NFT as the media art was the title. So the work that uses NFT as the medium was exhibited at this exhibition. I don't have time to go through all, but I wrote some text and about KUMALEON, and Shion-san also asked me to take part in editing of this book. Hasaqui-san, Proof of X was interesting. When did the preparation start? Well, the preparation started from February, and the exhibition was April. Kato-san had the connection to bring in a lot of people. It was in Fukui and very interesting, and the text was very deep and long. There were many other things. They were wonderful. For text, NFT art was criticized by the existing art. So I thought that the connection was possible. And introductory text by Shikata-san and light click save. The critic by that is introduced. And Shii-san also participated in the talk session. The modern art can be connected. That is very rare. Conceptual art and various issues are related to NFT. That part was not fully explained. So people in the ordinary modern art world hesitates to incorporate NFT. So NFT art, people were quite against the NFT art. And how to connect was really thought through by you. When I started to prepare for the book, the situation was exactly as you described. The recognition of the history, I thought that I needed to connect with the art history, and that was the starting point. And that's why I engaged Sasaki-san. I'm concerned how the situation developed. Shii-san, you have been thinking about that from before. And by NFT becoming popular, it has become clear and you were able to start engaging your activities. Is that right? What I had confidence about was not NFT, but not blockchain, but information society to change the form of art. That was quite clear. When I was thinking about the reductive things, that was the year of Twitter. It was in 2006. Web theory of web evolution. The book was issued, and art is something difficult to implement digital transformation. The evaluation is complicated, and we thought that people in the art world knew that it's not as simple as putting the real art to the digital world. So what is the art fundamentally? That is the direction of the interest, and I'm quite interested. I thought that art will change, and that would be unavoidable, and the wave would be extremely big. When that happens, people who love art, what should we be thinking about? So that's what I had in mind. In the beginning of 1990s, in the area of media art, interactive art emerged, and VR and AL, artificial life, and application of AI emerged, and then net art and software art emerged. So by the end of 1990s, there were various development, and then J art emerged. Part of the people already knew. It was before Web 2, and it was in the year 2000 that we saw the signs of Web 2, but actually it happened in 2006. So during the past 10 years, it was generalized, and many people started to create many things. And digital media connected analog and digital. From digital to analog, there was a wave of reverse wave of going back. Personally, when blockchain emerged, I couldn't really understand. It was in 2013, and there was an artist called Go-san, and Go-san focused on the blockchain, and it was in 2013 that Go-san started to publish works. He thought about the self-organization and distributed network issue. Well, it was a student of Tama Art University, and it was in 2008 or 2007. So from that perspective, after Web 2, the distributed network concept existed. Before that, the internet itself is designed in a dispersed way, and basically digital garage is this location, and garage-based computer culture also incorporated distributed type, and autonomous and distributed type existed from 1960s as computer simulation and others. finally is implemented in the society and the general public was now able to use them.
When it comes to blockchain and its introduction, the transparency and the fact that all the records will be kept was new. And sometimes people thought that all the tracked history should not be left, because initially in the early 2000s we were very cautious about how information will be used. For example, we had 9/11 and the sense of security was different. So even CCTV was being scared of. But now being monitored and being logged gives people a sense of security. And the technology is there. So that is why we are keeping the logs and we are keeping all the records of the transactions. So keeping the records had been a source of threat for a long timer like me, and it could negatively impact society, I thought, but now it's decentralized and transparent, and these are being valued by new artists. So this has been the new movement or a shift that happened in the early 2000s. Yes, that was when Web 2.0 flourished and curated media emerged. Artists took advantage of that new movement, and these became central topics for artists. Using Tumblr, for example, they were creating new types of arts. But back then, people were starting to use blockchain, but they were still hidden, and therefore I didn't notice their movements. I want to know if artists also made use of the technology. Well, I think artists in general are latecomers, so I have not been monitoring the situation very closely. But when it comes to the US art scene, when they went through digital transformation, not only by putting everything on the internet, but rather creating value in contemporary art in connection to DX was talked about, like Sotheby's and Christie's using internet, Gagosian, and other galleries who have been building history in the world of contemporary art have started using the internet. And when would that day come was something that people were concerned. And how this can be connected to the current movement is of interest to me. What Shikata-san mentioned also echoes with what I am currently seeing. So, for example, people say that next year's technology would definitely be better than this year's technology, or iPhones today are better than iPhones 5 years ago. When applying this to art, especially to media art, this movement regarding decentralization happened, and what I got interested in was that the fact that the internet will change everything in the world, it's going to change our mindsets, and that was given. So how would that impact the general public was the point of interest. Not the people who are very versed in technology, but rather just the lay people, lay persons who have children who are digital natives, and how creative would change when digitalization penetrates at that level. And there is a certain process to it. Starting from 2006, As you mentioned, Web 2.0 happened, but not many artists entered this movement. And 2011, Guggenheim and Google collaborated, and Google Arts and Culture started. Previously, museums were not well connected with the new rich, and they were okay by being connected with traditional wealthy families from which they can get contributions. But internet millionaires started to emerge, and the art community needed to connect with them as well. When that happened, internet startup culture and art scene got connected. VIP Art Fair started in 2012. Artsy, supported by Negotiation, is a art startup, a huge one, which came into being. Puddle 8 also came into being in that same year. I was very interested in that particular movement. When we see NFT today, I think it is equivalently impactful. It's not just about tech people driving this movement, but rather it has penetrated so much that it has connection to our daily lives. That is where NFT stands right now. So you're talking about many possibilities, but when you see the current Japanese market, are we catching up yet? Well, regarding your question, when I started Valnog in 2014 and started knowing about the Web 2.0 culture and started witnessing the bottom-up nature of the internet culture, I thought that that would go well with the Japanese culture in general, but not many people wanted to become artists or art critics, and they didn't jump on the boat at that time. Art has been top-down traditionally, and that is why you need to be sold at 7.5 billion at Christie's, and then NFT all of a sudden comes under the spotlight. So these big movements seemed necessary to change things, and the Japanese art scene did not see that. Of course, Murakami-san made a huge contribution, but that was almost the only impactful movement. If that's the case, Guggenheim did not really impact the Japanese artists, you're saying. Is that your point? You know better than me, right? Well, regarding what you said media art has been avant-garde, but that also means that being at the front lines, being always prone to be renewed. But when I think about media art, the importance lies in the fact that you need to read into the nature of the media and its power to intervene. And I think there's something to believe in this movement. And I understand what Shii-san is saying. I have a totally different perspective on this matter. And Guggenheim, for example, collaborating in this space was huge. I think decision-making outside of Japan is very speedy, and they know their position in the industry. Omar, too. For more than a century, they have always adopted something new. This has been the tradition, and this is very modern and avant-garde. Unless these major players move, the cultural scene would not move. Sounds very outdated, authoritative, if you will, very 20th century-like. The brand power and whatnot has to lead the way. I don't think that is fundamentally valuable. I think things should happen bottom up, not just media art. Before the introduction of internet, we had video and other conceptual art that existed. And Jushan would be one of the classic models. And people jokingly used the media to experiment. And that created something interesting, although there were lots of failures too. This was a trial and error, which created this bottom-up movement. When everything becomes market-based, then it becomes all about selling the art pieces and the actions by collectors, which I don't deny, but I don't think those are so important in my point of view, because in the modern era, especially the current market scene has been established based on Western art. And in the 1960s, galleries, for example, became stronger. And we still live in an era that was established back then. But now I think we can get into somewhere new. We have a big venue here. And we have carpets, but we can remove the carpet and then you will see the concrete floor. That is something that we need to do in the art scene. We need the shift to happen. We should get rid of currency-based, market-based value. We shouldn't be just amplifying this traditional way of placing value on things. And even the artists, they are trapped in the old way of thinking and blockchain as media and internet digital technology. When you think about the possibility they can bring about, I think there are many things that we can do. So new creator economy, in my point of view, should move away from currency-based capitalism, and they can create a new style or new type of economy. That is something that I personally look forward to. Maybe I was understanding differently, so let me elaborate. Sorry, maybe I was not articulate enough. Well, I think we're on the same page. We're saying the same thing. When I mentioned avant-garde, Alice Electronica, which happened, and the Golden Prize went to Syrian refugee story. And in the Cultural Affairs Agency, there was a recognition of this type of movement. So in the case of Syria, they created a device of their own and they became a phenomenon based on the internet. They were highly praised for their social activism through this new media. And when it comes to Media Festival by the Cultural Affairs Agency, these questions, similar questions are being raised, which I think are legitimate. So we're creating 18 devices and creating media art on top of that. And we are trying to showcase them, but we may have to shift to a new paradigm. And NFT has the power. It's not just about decentralization, not just about technology that supports NFT. It's bigger than that. It's about the human ecosystem and how that gets changed. And there's a paradigm shift that is happening because of NFT. I am not denying media art. I think, in a sense, media art has really sunk in or set foot in society. And what you mentioned earlier, I echo that. I think you are talking about mainstreaming these new technologies, but art criticism and other art-related discussions, a newcomer saying that this is great will not work. That's how art society is being set up. But this is beginning to change because of NFT. And this is worth recognizing. Going forward, I think we should, as you mentioned, think about bottom-up movements and the connection to the market, but not overly dependent on the market. So these characteristics need to be enhanced and broadened as part of art. So that is a shift of the way of thinking that we need to see.
We are maybe talking too much, but reading Shii-san's book, the last part, I fully agree. The information is to be penetrated and everyone can use them freely, use NFT and create works. Such era will come. I thought that is wonderful. I think there are common thinking. In the past 1 or 2 years, there was a poem of NFT, and where a lot of issues related to environment was taken up, and the quality of art varies. This is a major turning point. Many people came in, including high and low, meaning that there were large potential. In the future, environmental issue may be resolved. There are too many shocking things right now. We cannot respond to that. We don't have language, and especially art-related people, media art-related people, they are still keeping silence. Nothing can be said still. That is the current situation. But still, I thought about what to talk with these members. If this continues for 5 years and 10 years, it will change. Ecosystem will be developed. Currently, there's a lot of confusion because it was very sudden, but many works will be attached to NFT, and that may be a good thing. I cannot confidently say, but we should be having long-term vision and consider art's possibility. So vision-wise, I think I have the same thinking. As the medium layer of NFT, there's blockchain and smart contract and data storage. At smart contract level, the works can be made. There's a blockchain artist called Myers, and artist handling smart contracts. Toshi-san's also one of them. 0x Hike is one of them. Many artists are working in that layer, meaning we are seeing
クリエイトしてデジタルやって載せてみようっていうアーティスト、今日河合スカルさんですよね。河合スカルさんとかお越しいただいてますけど、そういった新進気鋭の若手が出てきて、それなりの昨年ハイプがあったので、資金がゲットできるみたいな状況があって、そういうなんかランダム性というかカオス性がここ 1,2 年はあって、今後も、例えばNFT のカルチャーでラッフルとか、抽選でどんどん配るみたいなのがあったりとか、フリーミントとかありますけど、そういうのでなんかどんどんこうシャッフルして、具体的にお金が入るって話以外で、 トランザクション履歴が透明性があるので、変なところでつながっちゃうみたいなところがすごい面白いと思ってまして、個人的な体験としてもある海外のジミー・エドガーっていうワープレコードで音楽出しているようなアーティストと作品を交換する機会があったりですとか、コレクターとコミュニケーションする、買ってくれた人とチャットし続けているような環境とかがあって、私自身もポットでみたいな感じなので、本当にそういうランダムネスが社会的にこう自然に組み込まれてきてる感じが NFT アートシーンにあるのかなと、そういうところにちょっと興味持ってます。
そういう意味では未来の話じゃなくて、現在すごくもう未来的なことが起こっていて、この状況ってコレクターだったりとか、こう作品作る人だったりとか、オーディエンスもそうだけど、関係性がもう完全に変わったような状況が生まれていて、それに対して既存の美術館とかそういった美術界がどういうふうにリアクションできるかっていうのも一つの課せられている問いだと思うんですけど、何かそこからちょっとまだリアクションがあんまりないっていうのがちょっと寂しいところかなと。
多分国内ではまだないのかなって私は知らないんですけど、皆さんご存知だったら美術館とかね、博物館とかね、でもグッゲンハイムとかやってるんなら頑張ろうと思って、意外に日本遅いんですよね。いろんなものが結構遅いなっていう気がしていて、これはどうですかね、皆さんどう思います？
僕SHIKATAさんにちょっと伺いたいことで言うと、批評とキュレーションの違いについて結構最近いろいろ話すところがあるんですけど、例えばなんか批評で言うとブルトンとかグリーンバーグとか、なんかちょっと批評が一つのカルチャーを先導するみたいなことがあったっていうのはあって、そういうケースっていくつかあるんですけど、どっちかっていうと僕のイメージだとキュレーションの方がなんか新しいなんかムーブメントを作るっていうイメージがあって、で批評の言葉っていうのは後に来るもんなのかなっていう一般論ですけど、で今の時代ってそういうブルトンとかグリーンバーグが必要な時代なのか、それともキュレーションで今をいろんなことが起きているところを誰かがちゃんとまとめていって、で一つのなんか言葉にしていくっていうことが必要なのかっていうところを皆さんにお伺いしたいですね。なんか
それこそなんか分散型のキュレーションじゃないですけど、コレクターが自分でキュレーションしたりとか。
Collector does curation by themselves, so anybody can become curator. The word curation expanded during the past 10 years. When internet emerged, I think curation expanded. So in 1993 or 1994, Eva Brubinger, an Austrian artist, started computer-aided curation. So when you link, it becomes curation. It's not a recent phenomena. I think internet changed things. And the relationship of criticism and curation, the boundary is narrowing. I do both. Criticism not coming later, but rather through talking to the artist. Such criticism will lead to the next work and may bring in more traction to the next work. So criticism and curation is closely linked with each other right now. And criticism is not just text, talking like this, or on YouTube we can do Critic's work. So it's expanding, and many artists do curation. In NFT, collectors online provides gallery, and they are playing a really important role. Becto Libertarian in NFT, that is a collector, and on Deca platform, this person won the grand prize as a gallery, and as a gallery they can communicate. Even an individual can communicate, and the curator can do self-promotion, and the buyer and the community can mutually assist each other. So when you say community, Takao-san is involved in various ways. There are people making various actions, and that is a good thing. On the other hand, the reality advanced too much, and we don't have enough people who connect them to the traditional people. From outside of the internet, there's no clue what's going on. So how can we connect? That is the biggest challenge. Publishing a book is important. That is a really good book and easy to read. So that is also important. And actually, physically meeting is important. While I was developing the book, I thought that the content is extremely difficult. Shii-san's book is easy to understand, so it's better to buy 2 books as a set. So Shii-san's book will provide comprehensive view. So 2 books combined would be a great idea. As Greenberg said, as you said about Greenberg, what would be the essence of media? Such edgy approach would be one angle, and overall culture to communicate and reflect them into reality. In January, there was a suggestion to publish the Critic in NFT. It was a sudden suggestion, and I haven't talked about this topic yet, but a lot of things can be connected to NFT. So some people may buy as art, even if it is not created as an art. So it will depend on the person's interpretation. On a Medium, there was an article on NFT. When writing text, I collect reference materials, and some are no longer published and become really expensive. So the art critic needs to be made open. There are superior Japanese art critics in the past, and we need to re-evaluate those critics. Our organization is volunteer-based, and we don't have much money, and everybody's busy. There was a talk yesterday, and everybody is working on volunteer basis. The human resources and budget, if we have them, we can do. If there's any interest, please let me know. The critics who understand the technology is quite rare. Bijutsu Techo provides an award, but critics prior to that, there is no technology link. I also wrote about that. There are some people, and lately there are younger generation like Mizuno-san, who writes post-internet. Yesterday he appeared on our talk. Digital-based or internet-based world and creation in the society is increasing. So I think things are gradually changing. But still, the art industry is quite slow overall. Web3 world, if we are to move to Web3 world, there are a lot of new opportunities, but there are many people who are hesitating to move. I may not have the full picture, but art and NFT to connect the 2 worlds. In terms of curation, Robert Alice in Sotheby's curation, digitally enabled curation. In that curation, there was an information on the first NFT and who were involved, and that was done by an auction house. That was the interesting point. As Shikata-san mentioned, although it's not a market, the interesting thing about is NFT is that it is a co-pact with with the market, and Sotheby's Robert Alice was taking the lead. It's quite symbolic. It will be avoided or not in the future. That would be my interest point. Time is running out. Any last point? I can talk forever. In the Japanese society, there's a so-called technophobia. After 2010, I think there's a sense of technophobia. Why is that? After the Great East Japan earthquake, something related to the nuclear power plant accident, or maybe in an unconscious area, technology and in this first session, technology topic was covered, and I truly feel whether there's such a technophobia. Sometimes it penetrates immediately, and discussion is not taking place. Well, we are discussing, but there's not enough discussion taking place related to Alex's comment. Technology is started from the West, and that is the art structure, and how Japanese people to contact that. I think we need to revisit that.
Maybe we need to. And this is linked to modernization. This is linked to how Japanese people perceive themselves. And that is something that I have in mind when I conduct my activities. Right. In order to have a breakthrough, we need to settle this problem. Yeah. And after that, we can truly see NFT and blockchain technology. What do you think, Shii-san? I think we've run out of time. So I have noticed throughout this session that there are many points to be discussed. We need to dig deeper in another opportunity. I was very fortunate to be able to sit at the panel with you all. We didn't have enough time, but maybe we can make this a regular session. Yeah, that's right. We are never ending, right? So we need to close. So Shinsei, you published a book, and you need to sign autographs, and you can do like a kind of a book publication show or something where you can have a talk show. Maybe the new creator economy should publish its edition too. That is true because the reality is changing. Okay, we cannot stop talking, so we need a moderator next time. Thank you very much for listening, everyone. Thank you. Wow, that was a very rich discussion, and we didn't have enough time at all. It was very interesting, though. So this is going to be the last session, and we won't take a break before it. We have a student presentation from the Tokyo University of the Arts. And this is something that I found through Sputniko. So I would like to pass the microphone over to her to explain what it is. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, all. Thank you for joining Right Click Live. We had amazing panelists, and the quality of the speakers were just great. let's speak here. So, great panelists, right? And it was very international too. Great discussions. Wow, I was able to see a lot of people whom I wanted to see. So Toshi-san and Alex from Right Click Save, you are the organizers of this spectacular event. I would like to thank you from the bottom of my heart.
As a community. So, まず big thanks to you guys. 本当にあとネオルトとかいろんなスポンサーもいる
In addition, Neolt and other supporters, thank you so much. Sorry for taking up too much time, but here's the final presentation from the Tokyo University of the Arts. We had NFT workshop in November together. And the students spent 1 month learning about NFT and blockchain, and they presented their ideas regarding a new creative. So you have been teaching there for 4 years, but this was the first regarding NFT because it was all about concept making until this year. The students learn very quickly. When it comes to blockchain and NFT, they are very intuitive in their understanding, and they were able to come up with great practical ideas. And we have chosen one which had a very interesting yet practical idea. We have 9 teams and all were great, so we would like to give them all an opportunity to present, but we have only 1 team. And Toshi-san was one of the persons who judged the students' works. So students will take the stage and present. They are all here. This is a crossover between blood donation and NFT. Like the Red Cross needs to have more blood donors, and this need was connected to the use of NFT. Okay. Thank you. Thanks for the introduction. We're from the Tokyo University of the Arts. We are majoring in design. We are freshmen. I am Suzuki Hinano. Very nice to meet you all. I'm Arai Yuma. Good afternoon, guys. Matsumura Takayuki here. And we have one more member, Takashi K, who could not make it because of COVID-19. So we would like to start a presentation. We're talking about a crossover between blood donation and NFT. So at our university, we learned about NFT and we had to come up with a new idea. And so we came up with an idea that will create a generative art Chico from donated blood. Please look at the video. Thank you for watching. So Chico represents the liquid nature of blood and the cell within the blood. This is not made at random. We are using some values that are extracted from blood testing. We use them as parameters in order to create this generative art. If you have similar test results, then you will have a similar shape. But you can have your unique character based on the parameters in your blood. We use WebGL, and I programmed this so that it can move in the web space. Chico is not your usual generative NFT. In order to utilize it further, we have come up with a scheme. When you donate blood, you can get an NFT as a token of your contribution. Currently, at the Japan Red Cross, when somebody donates blood, there is a service called Lab Blood, which provides the donors with the results of the blood testing. And together with the results, we thought that we can send the NFT to those who want them. In order to realize this, we need to partner with the Japan Red Cross, and we need to overcome privacy issues, but we just thought that idea-wise, this is something interesting. Chico uses the parameter generated through blood testing. That means it's one of a kind. And you can resell or transfer physical tokens, but if you use NFT and smart contract, we can make it as such so that resale and transfer are not allowed. And by doing so, those who have the wallet will be proven as the owner of this NFT. And that also proves the fact that the person is a blood donor. Chico can overcome some of the challenges that blood donation faces. In our survey, 70% of the young generation said they have not ever donated blood. Please look at this as well. This is from the Japanese Red Cross Society, and this shows blood donation participation by age. So the people who need blood are seniors, but by the time our parents would need blood, those in the 50s now would not be able to donate blood. That means that we'll run out of donated blood in the future. We think that Chico can realize the following. First, we can create an opportunity for people to donate blood. They might want something unique, or they might just want a piece of unique artwork. So those factors can promote blood donation, we believe. And the Chico will remain in the wallet. That means they can prove that they have donated blood. For example, some of the celebrities might decide to have Chico in the wallet, and that could influence others by letting people know that the person has donated blood. So the image towards blood donation can be changed. We wanted to visualize who donated blood so that we can create a world in which blood donation becomes a norm. We were able to talk to people from the Japanese Red Cross Society, and they feel the need to have blood donors feel the importance of blood donation. So through Chico, we might be able to realize that. Thank you for your kind attention. They created this in just 2 to 3 weeks. Isn't that great? And Takase-san came as a guest judge, and he said, NFT is a proof of participation towards some kind of movement, and I think that has been really followed up well in this idea. Within 1 month, you were able to create this, and you had the live portion, and you can put this on live. Thank you for putting together all of this in just within 1 month. You did great. Thank you. Thank you all. With that, we would like to conclude the program. After this, we will have a networking session among those who are here. Those of you who are participating online, thank you very much for staying with us for such a long time. The market surrounding NFT is ever changing, but we were able to bring in major participants of this market who actively talked about interesting topics. And at the end, we had a great student presentation. And I think we can all come up with great innovative ideas, and there is space for all. That is what I felt by listening to the student presentation. Last but not least, we would like to hear from Alexis from Right Click Save. トシさん、ありがとうございました。本日はお越しいただきありがとうございます。
The United States, it does feel like a really global conversation. But I think from my perspective, what this set of conversations has told me is just how exciting and vibrant the Japanese scene is. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how Web3 develops next year, particularly with Bright Moments coming in May. So I hope you all feel like this has been a useful set of conversations to listen to. From a personal perspective, it's been a very exciting thing to see so many pioneering artists here. But also, from my perspective, I want to give one final shout out to Sputniko, because without her introducing us to Toshi and KUMALEON, this wouldn't have happened. And I personally like this Tokyo-based network. It seems to me to be a very thriving scene, and I want to thank you all for being here. I do also just want to make one final statement about Right Click Save, which is really trying to raise the level of critical engagement with NFTs, blockchain and Web3. And one of the principal ways we do that is by approaching scholars, researchers, and anyone who wants to think critically about digital media. So from my perspective, having students from Tokyo University of the Arts sharing their work here in amongst a room with pioneering artists is, for me, the ultimate statement of the vitality of an ecosystem. So thank you all, both the artists and the speakers, and all the listeners in the audience. It really means a lot you being here today. And please read Right Click Save. We have an interview right now with Shunsuke Takawo. And good luck for 2023. Thank you.
つけてみました。ありがとうございました。そしたらですね、以上でセッションの時間を終了したいと思います。本当にありがとうございました。でこの後ですね、ネットワーキングの時間で場所を空けておりますので、ぜひ皆様ですね、今日多様な方たちご招待しておりますので、ぜひ交流を持っていただければなと思っております。6時まで会場空いておりますので、ぜひお楽しみください。本日はありがとうございました。
はい、
はい、どうぞ。
締めるところですいません。
はい、お願いします。
東京芸大もう1チーム来てましてですね。
ぜひぜひお願いします。
ぜひ自分素晴らしい、彼らもすごいいいアイデアを持っていて、でこれからネットワーキングパーティーこれから始まるかな。
そうですね。パーティーというか時間だけ。
ここである。なんか最後に千羽鶴と NFT のプロ大丈夫？いきなりなんか。
全然もうそういう意味ではもう自由な時間なので、はい。
ネットワーキングしながらでもいいので、
そうですね、はい、皆さん気軽に聞いていただければと思います。
なので皆さんネットワーキングしながらでいいので、もう1チーム芸大からあるのでお願いします。ごめんね、大丈夫。はい、お願いします。 画面ってつなげられますかっていう。
ネットはありますので、少々お待ちください。
すいません。じゃあ、閉めていいです。じゃあ、ね、大丈夫。ごめんね、乱入し。みんなネットワーキングスタートしていいんです。すいません。トシさんを途中好きに閉めてスタートしていいんで、すいません。
ありがとうございます。でもすごい素敵なプロジェクトで、僕も感動したプロジェクトなので、ぜひ皆さんに知っていただければと思います。で、本当に、長丁場皆さん聞いていただいたので、立ちながら背伸びしながら他の人と話しながら聞いていただければと思います。呼んでるよ。
はい、すいません、飛び入り参加で本当はゲストで話聞くだけの予定だったので、台本とかが全く用意できてなくて、でもプレゼン資料だけがちょっとドライブにあったので、
but I had my presentation materials on my drive, so let me just introduce
東京芸術大学デザイン科1年の
from design major, first year students. We have 5 members.
その NFT をどうや
who
った
worked
ら
on this project.
うまく利用できるのかなっていうのを
The
私
topic
たち
was
なりに考え
NFT,
て、
and we
千羽
thought
鶴
about
と
the
NFT
utilization
をコラボレーションさせたらいいんじゃ
1,000 paper
ないかなという
cranes
案に
and
立って今回このプロ
NFTs
ジェクトを
collaboration is
思い
this
つきまし
idea.
た。はい。ちょっとトークテーマとか書いてあるんですけど、これも飛ばして、本当に要点だけお話しさせていただきます。すいません。
Topic, and let me skip and just share with you the essence. 1,000 paper cranes. This culture is quite widespread, and not just in Japan, it's recognized abroad as well. Why we thought about converting this to
まず
NFT
その千羽鶴にまず問
is
題があると思ってて、最近ウクラ
there
イ
is
ナ
an
に
issue
千羽鶴を送ろうって言い出した人たちがいて、それも
paper
ちょっと
cranes,
ネット上で炎上
and
したりだと
there
か、
were
物議を
people
醸している問
who
題なんですけど、
thought about
そ
physically
の被災地や
delivering
戦場に千羽鶴
1,000
が送
paper
られたとし
cranes
て
and
も、
to
こ
Ukraine.
っちの気持ちだけで
In
向こうには全く
Ukraine,
役に立たない。その千羽鶴があっても
if
資
they
源がなく
receive
て
them,
どうしようもないみたいな
they
ことがあったりだ
can't
とか、
really do
ま
anything
た
about it,
このように
and
一人に
they
困っ
don't really
て
get the
被災地
message,
には他にも必要なものがあるよねってなって
and
い
they would
て、
probably
で
feel
また
that
日本
there
に寄付
are
文化が全
other
く浸透
things
していな
that
い
are necessary
という
other
問
than
題
the
が
paper cranes. And another
問題
problem
も解
is
決する
that
ことができ
the
るのでは
culture
ないか
of
と思ってい
donation
て、
is not
その
really
寄付文化が浸
penetrated
透していない理由に
in
も、
Japan.
この寄
One
付
of the
教育が十
reasons
分でない寄付の仕方がわからない
is
各団
that
体の信頼性が低いな
there
ど、
is
いろ
not
んな
enough
問題を見つけ
education
て、
about it.
でその
People
問
don't
題
know
を
how
両
to
方解決でき
donate.
ないかなと思っ
The
て、
reliability of the
これぴっしりと間違
organization
えたらです
is
ね、日本が少な
low.
いみたいな。で、
Those are
こ
the
の千羽
reasons
鶴を
where
NFT
donation
化し
culture
て、
is not really
その
penetrated. So
その
we can
NFT 化し
convert,
た
we thought
ものを
of
買っていただいた
converting
お金を寄付され
paper
るという
cranes
仕組み
to
のプロジェクト
NFT,
を
and
考
people
え
who
ていま
purchased
す。
the money that were
千羽
collected
鶴
to
が実際
purchase
に送られないから
the
処理に困らないし、
NFT is to
千
be
羽鶴を送る
transferred
気
for
持ちを大切
donation.
にしながら寄付できて、寄付した証
So
明がその NFT アートとし
without
て残
physically
るという
sending
点が良い
the
点だ
paper
と
cranes,
思っています。
the receiving
で、
side
私た
will
ちは
not
この千羽鶴、
have difficulty
千
in
度あつる、鶴
handling
を送
them.
るという意味と、千羽
So
鶴
send
の
a
ローマ字
tsuru
表記をかけた
and
千羽鶴というプロジェクト名をつけて、
1,000
今回
cranes
プロジェクトを進めてい
are
ま
the
す。
source of this naming.
で、まず、
鶴
サイトを
meaning
立ち上げ
crane.
たので、それを見ながら、プロジェクトの
We
概要を説明していきたい
launched
と
a
思います。
website, so let me share with you, show you the website to explain the outline of the project.
すいません、XD でちょっと重いんですけど。
The data is a bit heavy.
まあ、私たちが考えたプロジェクトの流れをざっくり言うと、その
The
NFT ア
flow
ー
of the
トを
project is
鶴、
that
折り鶴一つ一つを
NFT art,
NFT アートとして売って、ここにちょっと今うっすら見えてるんですけど、
is to
この
be
一匹一
to
匹を
be sold
NFT ア
as
ートとして売っ
NFT
て、
art.
それを買っていただいて、その売
And
り上げのお金を
the
その各団
proceeds
体、
of the sale
被災地支援だったり、障害者支援だった
to
りの団
be
体に
donated
寄付できるよう
to
な仕組みを考えて、
NPOs
で
and other
全然読
organizations.
み込めないですね。
The data is heavy.
読み込めない。このうっすら見えるのを見ていただきたいんですけど、
Please focus on this vague image. Each crane represents NFT art, and what we are going to sell is each paper crane, and by selling 1,000 of them, we receive the proceeds and then send those to the organizations. So we developed this website. The design of each paper was also developed by us. It's a 3D created by Blender and by pattern to be poured in. We can invite many people to buy. So each design was drawn by us.
あと、今後の展開なんですけど、今この
How to deploy going forward. As NFT art, we sell each pattern or design, and we drew them. In the future, when we say 1,000 paper cranes, the custom is that when you are in elementary school, then children would hold the paper crane and create 1,000 cranes and send to Hiroshima. So that was part of my childhood experience, and we are also thinking of converting them to NFT arts. The crane is made by Blender, so the new patterns can be developed quite easily. We can collaborate with brands and possibly lead to new kind of support. And right now, this is only in Japanese, but going forward, we are hoping to expand this to outside of Japan. I'm hoping to receive assistance in translation.
ご清聴ありがとうございます。
Thank you for your kind attention.
無茶ぶりにもかかわらず、でも彼ら本当にこのプロジェクトを具現化させようと動いてみたいので、コラボレーションしたいとか手伝いたいっていうエンジニアいたら、ぜひ今日のネットワーキングパーティーで声かけてもらえたらって思いました。トシさんもありがとうございました。
はい、ありがとうございました。
トシさん、thank you very much for the
ぜひ皆さんの
opportunity.
今後の活躍を楽しみにしております。
I really look forward to learning more about your project going forward.
では、ご歓談で6時までですね。はい、
So
楽しん
until
でいただければと思います。あり
we
がとう
have
ござい
time,
ます。
so please enjoy yourselves. Thank you.
いや、もうめっちゃいい感じでした。ありがとうございます。